Yeah, Rolf. Hi, guys.
This was all circulating around the base that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappeared.
When he came over to me,
Hey, Diane.
dude, he slithered over to me.
Hope you had a good time with your family.
And this giant comes out of the cave, and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand, and he's running really fast. And spears Dan holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got first, and when he got about 15 yards away from him, I raised that floodgate and I blowed his head up.
I feel something pulling at my leg, and I look over, and there are 2 small gray entities pulling it. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed. I reached my hand into this bush, and I touched air. Couldn't breathe, and I couldn't move, because I know I'm seeing a monster.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everybody. You're listening to the Confessionals Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Merkel. Thanks for being here. If you have a crazy, wild experience you want to share with me on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email. My email address is contact@theconfessionalspodcast.com. That's contact@theconfessionalspodcast.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the contact section, and you can reach me that way as well. Either works for me. Just get a hold of me. If you want more shows on a weekly basis, we got you covered. Every Thursday, we drop a bonus show for members only, and overtime segments when they're available. Those are to the members, to the website, and on the YouTube membership section. Both things are exactly the same. It's just 2 different locations. So if you're like, what's better? Well, if you're on YouTube and you only like consuming things on YouTube, then the YouTube memberships is better for you. But if you don't care, then head on over to the website, become a member there, and you get access to the membership app over there. Also, go ahead and check out merkelfilms.com. Sasquatch and the Missing Man is now available for on demand at merkelfilms.com, along with the rest of our archive. Go ahead and check it out. And last but not least, merkmerch.com. If you haven't got any of your merch apparel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and check it out at merkmerch.com. We have a bunch of different designs in there, a hat, and more to come. This is a warehouse that has everything stocked in it already. So when you put your order in, they pull it off the shelf and they ship it to you. There is no waiting. You get it within a few days. So go ahead and check it out, merkmerch.com. Now, today we have Chad Riley coming on the show, and he is going to be talking about his documentary that just covers so much information. I mean, he had to cut out tons of stuff just to make it consumable for people. Did I say that right? Consumable for people. And I'll tell you what, friends, this was a fantastic conversation that I had with him. The highlight for me was getting into the government and military involvement in the sorcery and rituals. Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, a lot of those guys getting involved with government officials. We went into that direction with this conversation, and I think it turned out great. And we also covered the Council of Nine and how that might tie into CERN and the 9 dead miners that it might have been possibly a sacrifice during that tunnel ceremony. So let's get to our conversation right now with Chad Riley. Let's go. All right, today we have Chad Riley on the show. Chad, what's going on, man?
What's going on, brother? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, man. I think this is the first time you and I talked to each other and looking at each other at the same time, because the last time you and I had a conversation on the show, it was episode 132, Hollow Earth and What Lives Within. It was you, me, the Fall Brothers, and
Jim Wilson.
Yeah.
I actually played that stream.
in Wilhelmsen. And man, that show, like first of all, I'll tell you what, I still feel like this a lot of times, but I really felt back then, I mean, you think 132 episodes, you got your gears rolling. I still was feeling the whole thing out. And I felt like I was a fish out of water during that conversation because, like, you guys were going all over these different directions. And I was just like, I don't know, just let them talk. I have no idea what they're saying, but cool. You know? And that's how I feel a lot of times when I bring people on that are smarter than me. But that was a long time ago, man. That was years ago. And back then, I didn't do any video. I just did audio because I was like, I'm a podcaster, not a YouTuber. Fast forward years later, and I'm like, well, I'm a YouTuber now too. So we do everything on video. So it's great to see you, friend. And listen, man, like you're somebody that throughout the years has always been popping up on mainly Facebook for me. Either people send me a post that you made, or I don't know if you have like a mass email list or something, but I'll get a post in my private messenger from you, and it's just something. And it's just always been like, man, I gotta get Chad back on the show. And then a few weeks back, I stumbled across a video with you and Derek Gilbert talking about your new documentary. It's like, there's my open door. Let's do this. So I want to open up the conversation talking about the documentary and the origins of it and how, you got involved in all this. And we'll see where the conversation goes from there. But your new documentary, this is your first documentary, correct?
Yes, this is my first solo project, and I see that you've also jumped into the field as well.
Yeah. I don't even know how I did that. It just kind of evolved and happened. But it's one of those things where, with me and the show, what we're doing is we're visiting locations where we talk about these stories on the show. And why not go to these locations that these things have happened? And so I guess that's kind of how it all started for us. And I just kind of happened to stumble across guys in the field that could really help me take the story and bring it to life through video. So it's been really cool. But your documentary, Skinwalkers and Stranger Things of the Unseen Realm, you had me at Stranger Things and the Unseen Realm, to be honest with you. So I was like, when I saw the title of it, I was like, this is going to be good. And what was the whole motivation behind this documentary? I mean, like, Skinwalkers and the Stranger Things of the Unseen Realm, it seems like it could be a mixed bag. When I look at the word Skinwalkers, though, I automatically take the topic of Skinwalkers and make it an interdimensional topic in my mind. I don't know if that's how you track with it or what, but what's the motivation here?
Yeah, it started out, what was it? After we had done Higher Entities, we'd gone to visit with our friend Keith at End Times Productions, and he had just interviewed Justin West. I just went along for the ride. I wasn't actually planning on getting him behind the camera and being filmed, but he was like, Chad, he goes, so much. He's like, get over here and talk about something. I'm like, I didn't even prepare. I don't even know what you want me to talk about. He's like, just get over here and talk about something. He's like, talk about Skinwalker Ranch or some of that stuff.
Oh, so man, the glad's happening already.
And it was one of the biggest interviews for the longest time. And I just started digging deeper and deeper into Skinwalker Ranch. And the more I dug into it, especially when I got into this whole hitchhiker phenomenon, that's what really just like blew it wide open, because that led into remote viewing, and that took me into alien abduction and encounters and different things, and got into Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley and the Babylon working ritual and everything. I mean, it just kept rabbit trailing into more things, and it's just like, okay, this is all completely 100% interconnected. It's like, this is all one big thing. And that's, like I said, I had about 488 pages of notes that I had to condense down into an 88-page script, and it was still 2.5 hours long. So
there's plenty of content for a part 2 and 3.
Oh yeah.
So how do you go from Skinwalker Ranch to the Hitchhiker Effect to remote viewing? So I understand the Hitchhiker Effect.
And what's the Hitchhiker Effect? I don't even know what that is.
I mean, when we went to that area, we went to Space Wolf Research, which borders Skinwalker Ranch. And Ryan, the owner of that property, had told us about the idea of the hitchhiker effect, and that we might have something happen to us at home months later, things like that. But how do you go from uncovering the hitchhiker effect, I'm assuming connected to Skinwalker Ranch, to the remote viewing, to Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons and all this stuff? I mean, it seems like quite a domino effect you had going there. I'm having a hard time connecting all those dots. How does that happen for you?
That's funny that you bring up Ryan, because just did an
Happy
interview with him a
Thanksgiving,
couple months
guys.
ago.
Really?
And yeah, he's a good friend. But yeah, the thing about the hitchhiker phenomenon is when you look into it, especially some of the first people that were talking about it in the book that Kelleher and George Knapp wrote, they talk about whenever it was a character that they named Axelrod, who has now been identified, who was actually the boss of David Grush, Lou Elizondo, and Travis Taylor. So, I mean, this gentleman was out there at Skinwalker Ranch back before, or right around the time that Bigelow had just purchased it. And after he left there,
Hey,
something
Shawty.
attached
Happy
itself to
Thanksgiving.
him, but it went home and it was terrorizing his family. And the wife just happened to look out the back window one morning, and she saw this gigantic 8-foot tall wolf standing there on 2 hind legs, staring at her. And I mean, it was like intently staring at her. And after a couple of minutes, she said, it was holding its hand, front legs up like this. It had its arms crossed and was just sitting there staring at her like, And after a couple of minutes, it put its hands down by its side and walked off on 2 legs. And she didn't say anything because she was like, maybe I just imagined that. And she also didn't want to freak her kids out. Well, a couple of days later, her kids just happened to be back there by the back sliding door. And one of them was walking by, and he looked out the window and he just gasped really loud. So the other one jumped up and ran over like, what is it? And then they said there it was again, standing there on 2 legs by this tree, just leaned up against the tree, just staring at him. And after a couple of minutes, they said it took off running down the road, and they said it was kicking up leaves, running on 2 legs. And that's the thing. You start looking into this whole hitchhiker phenomenon, you never know what it is you're going to get, because some people get orbs, some people get shadow people, some people get these wolf creatures, some people get aliens flopping around in their house, they get the orbs, the UFOs. You just never know what it's going to be. And how it tied into the whole thing with remote viewing, I found out that the remote viewers were some of the first people that encountered it long before they ever started talking about it at Skinwalker Ranch. One of the remote viewers that Pure Rich brought over was Uri Geller. And I know a lot.
And guys, this werewolf, or where it is walking on 2 legs, I've shown that channel Cryptid Chemtrails, where they show the cryptid animals caught on chemtrails. And there's dozens of them. There's so much crazy stuff out there.
A lot of people probably heard of Uri Geller, about him bending spoons and stuff like that, but he supposedly was, not as powerful or as well known.
Shawnee, didn't AI just rewrite the Bible? Pretty sure it did.
Or well at it as like Ingo Swann, Pat Price, some of the even Joseph McConicle, and some of the other most well-known ones that are in part of the programs. But he was being studied by scientists. They wanted to see, if they could measure or figure out how he was doing what he was doing as far as being able to perceive things and gather information from a distance. And while they were measuring him and studying, how he was doing this, the scientists that were doing the measurements and studying of him, they started encountering the hitchhiker phenomenon in their homes, around their family, started seeing cryptids, they started seeing shadow people and orbs and different things going on in their homes, even poltergeist activity. So I was like, okay, that's weird. That's really bizarre, because you got it now into the remote viewing as well. And, this happened to several of them, but Uri Geller was probably the most well-known case. And then I found out through my, digging deeper and deeper and stuff, that one of the very first people to encounter the hitchhiker phenomenon was Kenneth Arnold, who was the first person who coined the phrase flying saucers. He was the one who saw the 9 craft flying over Mount Rainier, Washington.
Hey, JD, how are you, mate?
He had his encounter. In his biography, he wrote that they started having like poltergeist activity and bizarre things going on around the home. Even his daughter, who went on and did radio interviews, said the same thing, that there was all this poltergeist activity and bizarre hitchhiker phenomenon going on in their home after he had made the song.
Man, so what you're describing seems to like, and maybe you have a different perspective, but it seems like
no, Shawnee, that'll get me a community standard strike, and I'll have to delete the whole channel. That's what happened yesterday. I played that and I had to delete it, so I'm not doing that again.
When this kind of activity happens to people, whether they're at Skinwalker Ranch, they're doing remote viewing, or they happen to have an encounter with UFOs, or it seems like this is not like, 1 + 1 = 2 kind of thing where, oh, you were remote viewing and that's why the hitchhiker effect happened. It's like, well, you were at Skinwalker Ranch and that happened, and you were you had an encounter with UFOs and then the hitchhiker effect happened. It seems like there's a lot of things that can happen in the environment that you're in that these things can connect themselves to you. It's not just I think it's people want to believe and think that, as long as I don't touch a Ouija board, I'm okay. Like nothing's going to attach itself to me because I'm not doing anything. But it sounds like, if you just happen to stumble across something and you have an encounter with UFOs, that could open a door for the hitchhiker effect. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that this hitchhiker phenomenon spreads like a virus. So that's the thing, is that it will spread out from you to your family, to your friends. It can even spread out to the workplace and neighborhood that you live in. And yeah, it's utterly bizarre. But yeah,
it makes sense. If you're having, let's just use I think you said Axelrod, is that his name?
Yeah, that was the character. His name is Jay.
Cruiser JD, I'm on a cruiser, mate. Yeah, Shawnee, that's a little bit too dangerous. I'll have to watch that tomorrow and tonight, and if it's safe, I'll play it tomorrow. Because otherwise, I could delete the whole 3-hour stream. And I had to delete yesterday's one, so I want something up there recently.
Stratton, he's been identified now.
Jay
He
Stratton.
was when you look into Jay Stratton, that's the thing, is like that guy, he was part of naval intelligence. He had so many accolades. I had to cherry pick just a few, and I was reading off for almost a couple of minutes, just all the different titles that guy held. But he, like I said, keep in mind that he's the same guy that was over Lou Elizondo. He was the same guy over Travis Taylor, and he was also over Dave Grush. So this guy, he's very high up on the food chain as far as where all this stuff is going. And like I said, he's tied in with Jacques Vallée. He's tied in with Gary Nolan. He's tied in with Hal Puthoff. Just tons of these people. He knows all of them. He was part of tied in with Bigelow and all of them out there at Skinwalker Ranch. He knows lots of people, but like I said,
No, I've had to delete the last couple of days. I want to leave something up, so I'm going to keep doing this today. I'll do that one tomorrow. Things won't change by tomorrow, but I want to leave a stream up because Mike from around the world gets a lot of views.
Yeah, he's the one that still goes around and talks to all the senators and shows them. He's got like all the goodies, all the UFO footage, gives all the presentations, and he knows more than anybody probably.
That's interesting. I gotta get him on for an interview. Good luck, right? But so he has his. I think you said it was him that saw the red wolf at the house, or no, his wife, right? And then the kids saw it.
Yes.
So you see the virus spread there. I don't know if in that particular case, if you have any information as to the domino effect moving forward into other people, but it does make sense that
one of the sons, he started seeing orbs flying around in his bedroom, And he didn't say anything to any of his friends, but he had friends that lived in the neighborhood and they started seeing orbs in their backyards. So, like I said, that's how they found out that it was spreading. And then even Jay Stratton, one of the ladies that he worked with, she started having poltergeist activity going on at her house, and her roommates got so terrorized by it that they just moved out within a matter of days. So yeah, it spread through the workplace, it spread through his children and their friends in the neighborhood, and yeah.
That's wild. So it really is like a virus, and it's almost it's very interesting because I never really considered the hitchhiker effect on this kind of level, and this is something that maybe it could be a big reason as to why people have experiences that they have. I mean, if people unwittingly are around other people who have had experiences, or like say you're working with somebody who is, you know, playing with the Ouija board, and maybe they're into the dark arts. I mean, that could have an effect on your own life. That's the correct way of looking at that, right?
Yeah, that's completely the best way to look at it. And I mean, especially some of the stuff as far as like the shadow people. I know that there's an interview or a news clip George Knapp has done on his news channel where he talks about out of S2, these people in the military base out of S2 were seeing these shadow people running around on the bases and stuff. And like I said, you got some of these individuals. In fact, the wife of Jay Stratton said that she was seeing shadow people in their house walking around. She would be laying in bed, and all of a sudden she would look up and she would see the shadow person just literally walking across the room. I mean, it's all completely interconnected.
Yeah, you say S2, that it rings a bell. That's out near Area 51, right?
It's actually, I think, in Las Vegas, or out close to Las Vegas, somewhere out there.
I did.
You could win 4 Gold Coast apartments, a car, holiday, and gold. Search Dream Home Art Union today.
That'll be a good win.
Terry White Chemmart 5-Day Frenzy is now on. Save up to 50% off a huge range of brands like Listerine, OGX, and Elevate. Plus, receive free fast delivery. 5-Day Frenzy at Terry White Chemmart, dedicated to care.
Quality design made affordable. Visit b2cfurniture.com.au.
It's run-out time on the D90 Executive 4-wheel drive diesel. With 7 seats, get the large LDV D90.
Bloody ads.
I did a show years ago, and I think I called it something Area 2, and it was something to do with a military base. And the guy, he had different stories of these UFOs on the base, but towards the end, he talked about it wasn't his direct experience, but it was relayed to him. But basically, the Area 2 base, I believe it was the Area 2 base, had they were doing some kind of experiments, and I don't know how else to describe it other than a mutated cat creature that they created got out, and it was a big thing on the base. Like, I mean, it they don't know what happened to it, kind of thing. So that rings a bell. And I wonder if it's the same base or not. I don't remember, but
it could be S20 because I know the S20 is Dulce.
Okay, yeah. So all these S2s, S20s, 20 area code 215. Like, I'm at a loss a lot of times. So there's a clear for a long time, and we've talked about this throughout the years on the show. You know, we I think when we started the show, we speculated, but then 2017 happened, and it started becoming like this is something where the government is actively involved in this stuff. You know, when they start doing the UFO disclosure, and that kind of fizzled out towards the end of 2017, 2018, but then kind of revamped up towards 2020. But it's clear that there's this government involvement, and you're talking about. I wrote down what you had said, Axelrod. I can't remember his real name, but when you talk about him and his involvement within our own government, it shows that there is this interconnected twine of involvement. When it comes to, you know, the Pentagon and the defense side of things, what is their involvement when it comes to maybe defense against these things? Are they more actively involved, do you think, on a personal level where they're having a relationship with this phenomenon? Because like I think you and I can probably agree that what's going on is an interdimensional thing. And is our government involved in a relationship with beings from another realm? Or how do you view that whole thing?
Well, according to the Air Force's, the OSI's own investigation, that they had looked into the whole thing about the UFO wave kicking off in 1947. Keep in mind that Kenneth Arnold was the first person that had the encounter where he saw the 9 craft, and then we had less than 2 weeks later, you had the whole Roswell incident that went down. But one of the things that came to light later on is that Kenneth Arnold and Jack Parsons actually were acquainted with one another. In fact, there's other investigators that came out and said that they were actually flying buddies, and that they knew one another very well, and that they also had a another connection, that they had a good friend that lived in Roswell named Robert Goddard, who was also into rocket technology. In fact, he also worked or did his experiments before he moved to Roswell. He did them in the exact same place where Jack Parsons and his suicide squad did all their tests, which was Devil's Gate Dam. So it's like I said, you just start seeing all these complete connections going back and forth. But again, getting back to Sam Bruno and his investigation with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, the OSI, they started digging into it. And what really got them digging into Parsons was when he worked for Howard Hughes. He had already lost his top secret clearance, and then he regained his clearance. But when he worked for Howard Hughes, he took classified documents without permission. And that's what got them really digging into him. And when they started digging into him, Sam Bruno and his people that were under him, they started making all these connections that he's tied up into some sort of a satanic cult. He started looking into the whole thing about Thelema and the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orionis. And they quickly realized that, there's more to this than what, we even realized. And keep in mind, we're talking about L. Ron Hubbard, who created Scientology. And that's another one of these things that just kept coming up in the research that I was doing, was that one of the biggest things that I found out that blew my mind when I came across this information was that a vast majority of these remote viewers were all Scientologists. So you got Ingo Swann and you got Hal Puthoff. They were both OT7s. That's the highest rank you can hold in Scientology. And come to find out that this is where they were learning the techniques for remote viewing. It was coming out of Scientology. Well, now that you know who created Scientology and that he was part of Thelema and part of this Ordo Templi Orionis, that this is where they were getting these techniques that they were using for remote viewing. So it's like, the more the Air Force was digging into him and all the people that he was associated with, and then when they found out about the Babylon working ritual that they've been working on for almost 2 years, and that supposedly they were successful. In fact, the Air Force went so far as to say they think he widened whatever the portal was that Crowley had opened back in 1904. They think that Parsons and Hubbard actually widened it, and they were unable to close it. And then you got people like Kenneth Arnold, who took over Thelema after Aleister Crowley died, who was his personal secretary, making statements like, it was a member of the OTO that caused the whole great wave or the UFO flap, and just boasting and bragging that it was one of us that got to do this, that caused all this.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, I agree.
You said a bunch of stuff that I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Hey, Phil, good to see you, mate.
I want to revisit 3 things that you said.
Happy Thanksgiving Day.
And maybe you can expound on. I'm going to start with the first one I wrote down here. Jack Parsons' Suicide Squad and the Devil's Gate Dam. What is that? Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, that was the area where they used to go out there and do all their experiments when they were trying to, launch these rockets that just kept blowing up and exploding. That's why they referred to themselves as a Suicide Squad, because they figured, they're probably going to end up killing themselves. And yeah, and like I said, it had this rocky outcropping that looked like a demonic face. And like I said, you got Parsons and his Suicide Squad out there performing these experiments. And keep in mind, every time that he would go out there and do this, before they actually tried to launch it or blow it up or whatever, he would do these rituals to the Greek god Pan. And this is the exact same spot that Robert Goddard performed when he was out there doing the same thing, trying to launch these rockets and blowing things up. They were both in that same exact area. What are the odds and the coincidence, of that happening?
Yeah, this is a documentary that hasn't been released yet, but we went on quite a journey, to be honest with you, across the state of Kentucky and into Tennessee for one. It'll be released in 2025, but the area in Kentucky, in the Somerset area, is an area that the Greek god Pan has been documented to have been tried. How do I say this? People have tried summoning the Greek god Pan in, I believe it was Somerset, Kentucky, and I don't know if they were successful, but the Greek god Pan seems to pop up a lot with this kind of stuff. And of all the ancient gods and stuff, why do you think Pan often pops up with this? What is it about Pan that they're trying to that they want to try summoning him over? I don't know, Zeus. I don't know.
Well, they're pretty much they're the same thing.
Don't tell me that. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're the same. Because what was it? In fact, at the case when Jesus was with the apostles at Caesarea Philippi, you got the Greek god Pan's domain right there, as well as the gates of Hades, and you had Mount Hermon. All three, are all visible right where Jesus asked. He said, who people say that I am, and all the different apostles. Some say you're Jeremiah, some say you're this, some say you're that. He said, but who do you say that I am? And the only one was Peter. He's like, you're with Christ, you're the Messiah. And he said, blessed are you, for my Father in heaven has revealed this to you, and no man has. And the thing is when he was asking him specifically, when he was asking them that, it's like these were the three things that were right behind him. So he was specifically asking them. He was literally, like Mike Heiser said, he said he was sticking his
separating himself from the others, 100%.
Thumb in the eye of the enemy,
yep,
and provoking him, because he knew that 2 weeks from that point that he was going to be crucified.
Man, that's wild. That's wild. I'm gonna have to reassess all the Disney movies now. Been down that road. I've been down that road. So you mentioned also about the Babylon. What was it? The Babylon working ritual? Is that what you called it?
Yes. That was it was based off of the Alma working, which was the original ritual that Crowley had performed. And keep in mind, what was it? It was not too long after he performed, or while he was performing that, whenever he dealt with or met or summoned the entity Awas, that gave him the Book of the Law. It over a 3-day period. Dictated the Book of the Law that he wrote down, which is also that's another one of those ones with, like, when I was reading some of Kenneth Arnold's writing.
Shawnee, imagine how boring it would be if we wasn't Christian. Because we're Christian, this is exciting times. But to normal people, this is boring.
And Kenneth seriously, if you read his books, the Typhonian series, and I don't recommend anybody read it, but this guy brags and he boasts quite a bit. And in the book that I was reading out of his Typhonian series, Kenneth Arnold wrote one called Aleister Crowley and the Hidden God. And in that book, he says that the Book of the Law, part of the reason why the Book of the Law came into existence was to pave the way for the man of sin. And right after the Book of the Law was released, World War I broke out. Now, Crowley, he said that there was something to that. So, years down the road, he re-released it. And right after he released it the second time, World War II broke out.
No
At
way.
that point, he became convinced that this has something to do with bringing about the end of the world, bringing about the man of sin, the son of perdition, and that this was causing a baptism of blood was the words that he used. And along with communism and abortion and all this other stuff, this was all paving the way, creating this baptism of blood for the man of sin that was about to come on the scene. In fact, what was it? It was Charles Ray Tussell, Charles Hayes Russell. He was the one who started the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they had a prediction that the end of the world would begin on this date. I can't remember if it was October 2nd or October 4th, 1914. But whatever the date was that they predicted that was going to come about, that was the day that Jack Parsons was born.
No
So
way.
how fitting is it that you got this individual born on the day that the Jehovah's Witnesses made this prediction that the end of the world would begin on this particular date, that guy would go on to become the one that referred to himself as the Antichrist, and that he would be one of the ones that served under Aleister Crowley, who was 666, the beast, and that he would take his ritual, the Amalantra working, tweak it and call it the Babylon working ritual. And that was the things they were trying to bring about the whore of Babylon, bring about the Antichrist, and bring about the end of the world. And supposedly they were successful.
Wow.
We are now living in the end days because they, trying to help out the Bible, not that it needed any help, but that they wanted to bring about the end of the world. And that's the thing, is that they are in league, or were in league, with these entities. And like I said, I judge everything by their fruits. So you got the Scientologists, these OT7s, they're doing remote viewing. They're having these hitchhiker phenomenon, and just some of the stuff that and that's the thing is, people think the remote viewing is all nonsense. It's not nonsense. When you look at the data and you look at, why would they fund this program that, if it doesn't yield any results, it has to be renewed every single year. Why would they keep renewing it for 20 years?
Yeah, it's I think we understand there's something to it, and I think that we'd be foolish to think that the higher ups wouldn't think there's something to it either. They do throw money at it, and they don't, like, I don't want to say they don't throw money at things that they that aren't worth throwing money at, because they do that a lot too. But it's definitely something to consider. So if Parsons, you said Parsons said that he was the Antichrist, right?
Yes.
So where does that leave us then, according to his theology? If he was the Antichrist, then according to him, then we're no longer on the guard for an Antichrist at this point, right?
Yeah, the son of perdition has not come on scene. He wanted to be, or he referred to himself as Antichrist. And that's the thing, is we know that there's going to be multiple Antichrists,
right?
But that was the thing, is that he wanted to bring about the whore of Babylon and bring about the son of perdition. So that he supposedly, in his autobiography before he died, he had wrote that he was contacted by the spirit of the moonchild that he had created, and that it referred to itself as Hilarion, and said that I am here. What was it also? A thought just got away from me. I had another thought that I was going to tie in with that, but
you have a lot of thoughts in your head to keep track of, my friend. You got a lot of information. So with with Parsons, then you had mentioned him and Hubbard had opened a portal even wider. Is on that premise and that thought process, would that portal still be open to this day then? And what would be going in and out at this point?
Yeah, and like I said, this is the part of the investigation that San Bruno and the Air Force had determined that they believed that he had not only opened this portal, but that he had widened the one that Aleister Crowley had originally done back in 1904 when he made contact with AWAS. So, yeah.
So we're talking, military involvement. I remember you saying in the documentary about I think you said something about there being sorcery at the Pentagon. Am I remembering that correctly? Or rituals on military bases?
That was a newspaper article that I incorporated in there where we're talking about sorcery at the Pentagon, talking about a lot of this stuff as far as like rituals going on at military bases, and even the whole thing about the remote viewing program. Arizona Wilder, who was one of the people at the beginning of the film, you get to hear her talking about a lot of the satanic rituals that are going on out at military bases, and that naval intelligence is involved in a lot of this. But she also went so far as to say that a lot of people in naval intelligence are also part of the OTO, Ordo Templi Orionis. So that right there should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I mean, so what would be, I guess this might be a basic elementary question, but like, what would be the purpose and motivations to be getting involved in, these kind of rituals and stuff at their level? I mean, is this basically signifying and saying that within our own ranks of military, they're using, sorcery, magical means to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish on a military level?
All of it. It's all about power. It's no different than what the Nazis were doing back during World War II. Even the symbology that the Nazis were using as well. The lightning bolts. These are ancient runes. Even the swastika and so on. People are like, the swastika, that's the Nazis. It's like that symbol is over 2,000 years old. It's like they were using ancient rune symbols because they believe that they have power, and they were trying to tap into that power, because a lot of people get hung up on this whole thing that the Nazis were all about white supremacy, and it's all about eugenics and stuff like that. You're getting you're getting lost in the muddy water. It's like, really look at what it is that they were talking about. What were they saying? They believed that they were the descendants of the Aryans. And who are the Aryans? Well, the Aryans were descendants of the Atlanteans. Okay, well, who are the Atlanteans? Well, let's look at what Helena Blavatsky said about the Atlanteans. She said in her book, Secret Doctrines, Volume 2, and one of the things that she translated called the Book of Dizion, she says that they built statues the size of their bodies. That was 9 yardis high. Well, a yardie is 3 feet. So 9 times 3 is 27 feet tall. That's directly tying them into Genesis 6 and the Nephilim. They believed they were the descendants of the Nephilim. That's what they were tapping into. That's what they were trying. And it's no different from all the other governments around the world, including the United States. And keep in mind that under Project Paperclip, we absorbed almost 1,600 Nazis. And when they came over here, they brought all their beliefs with them. And the U.S. military was already steeped in a lot of this stuff as well, and doing a lot of very unethical experiments on humans. And I go through all that in the film as well. I show, because people are like, they couldn't be mixed up in this. They wouldn't get into that. And it's like, when you see what they're doing to their own citizens, how hard is it to believe that they got mixed up into the satanic? If something yields results, gives you power and technology and things like that, a lot, that's not going to deter a lot of people.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that even before Project Paperclip bringing 1,600 Nazis over, our government was already involved in this esoteric type stuff, trying to, gain an advantage by any means possible. All right, guys, today we got Simply Safe as our sponsor, and I've been talking about it for years, and I'll continue to talk about them for a little while longer because they are top notch. They are the only home security system that I've ever trusted, and I do not regret it. It is also something you can install on your own, which is super nice. You don't have to worry about somebody coming in and setting things up, but it's not the way you wanted it. You can do it all yourself, and it gets done extremely fast, and it is a very effective system. Listen, friends, last night I was at the studio until about 12:30 at night working on a bunch of crap that I'm not going to bore you with, and I got home around 1 o'clock in the morning, and the night before I realized that my chickens hadn't gotten into the coop before the automatic door went down. And so I was like, let me just check. And so I went on the deck and I shined a flashlight down in the back, and sure enough, I had 5 chickens out of the coop again, and I had to get down there to put them away because the predators come out at night. I go down there, I hear some creepy whatever thing running back and forth in the trees above me, probably an owl or something like that. And then I hear something walking off in the tree line right next to the fencing. Couldn't see it. I was shining a light. I couldn't see what it was, but I definitely heard something. And I'm scrambling around trying to pick up all these chickens, and I finally get them all into the chicken coop, lock them up, and then I got to make the trek back up to the house, which it's a bit of a hike. I keep my chickens farther away from the house than I probably should. And I'm walking up towards the house, and I'm like, man, I don't know what's out there. I hear something walking out in those woods, and I'm hoping it's nothing too big. So I pull out the gun, I'm walking up the hill, and it hit me. I got a Simply Safe camera pointing out there directly at me. And it gave me some really assurance that if something came up at me and got me, it'd be caught on film. It would prove the world that Dogman exists. So that's why you should get Simply Safe, to prove the world Dogman exists when it attacks you in your backyard after you're saving the chickens at 1 o'clock in the morning. All right, friends, listen. By partnering with Simply Safe, I finally got a real peace of mind. I want you to have it too. Get an exclusive 20% off any new Simply Safe system when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/professionals. That's simplysafe.com/professionals. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Exactly,
man. We're living in real interesting times with what's being disclosed to the public and who's doing the disclosing. So, you got George Knapp and people like that who've been out for a long time. But now you're seeing people like Tucker Carlson. I mean, Tucker Carlson's talking about UFOs now for the last, 6-7 years. And, now that he's not.
Diane, when I checked that poll earlier, it said about Mike coming on at 1300. 1300's 1 o'clock. It must be an hour early because last week was 1400, 2 o'clock.
At the network, I mean, it seems like he's talking more about it. And he was just on Rogan recently, really saying things just kind of not unhinged, not handcuffed. There's no handcuffs on the guy, and he's saying things, and there's part of me that kind of. I don't know what the right word is. It's not jealous or envious, but there's part of me that's like, I've been saying this, but now, but Tucker Carlson says, like, no, we've been saying this, but now that Tucker Carlson's saying it, now it has, weight to it, or now people are questioning Tucker Carlson's sanity. But he's talking about these UFOs, these well, let's just say leave it at UFOs. He's talking about UFOs and the things that are piloting the UFOs being spiritual beings. Like, I know it's groundbreaking for the rest of the world, but that's something that we've been kind of going down for a while now. And I pulled this up here before, and I want to.
I done the thumbs up a minute ago, but I forgot to press the blue arrow.
Steer you in this direction because I think it's I think it's interesting. I think it does relate to the pop culture idea of Stranger Things. I told you before we started recording, one of the things that I take most joy in is telling people the clickbait phrase "Stranger Things is real." I love telling people that because they're like, "What, crazy?" I'm like, "No, listen, it really
hey guys, good to see you, mate.
For so many reasons." And I think what's going on here, I have a tweet here. I'm just going to read it and so I can get the information out to you. In terms of those metallic spheres / drones, this is what alleged new firsthand UFO whistleblower Jason Sands had to say in the space last night, meaning in X space or Twitter space. The metallic spheres are NHI, non-human intelligence drones. They're using them because our direct energy weapons are affecting their manned craft. And so, like, the tweet goes on, but that right there, so Jason Sands saying that we're using direct energy weapons on manned craft that are coming from other realms, and now they're using their own drones because of that. To me, that tells me there's some kind of warfare going on right now between, I say us very loosely, and things coming from other realms, and I say loosely because I personally feel like there are coalitions and alliances between us humans and these other entities and beings. And I think what you laid out for the last 45 minutes, it draws that picture of people summoning entities, bringing entities into this realm, not just for the fun of it, but to work alongside of them for their own reasons. And so if our government, our militaries are doing this, yet we're also warring, it seems like there's this it's hard. The only way I can think of it is if we're shooting down things that are coming from other realms, yet we're working alongside of things that are coming from other realms, it tells me that in these other realms, there are opposing factions as well. Does that make sense at all? I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, we talk about, like, angelic beings, like God's angels, and you had the fallen angels. Well, those two factions would be warring with one another. But then you have these other ancient gods, Psalm 82, these other god entities. And it's just like, to me, I think that this other realm, and maybe it's probably more definitely multiple realms, and the things that exist in these realms, there seems to be a hierarchy and a constant struggle. I just find it interesting that this guy is saying that we're actually shooting.
You're pretty close to being right on target with what you're talking about, whether you realize it or not. The whole thing about these them encountering these crafts, even in the FBI document that I brought up in the Higher Entities film, FBI document 6751, they talk about these things are interdimensional and coming from another dimension. And they said that they can appear at will. And it talked about don't engage with these things because they have some sort of particle weapon. And then even George Knapp here recently on one of his interviews, one of the last ones he did with Jeremy Corbell on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about when he went to Russia and they gave him a lot of the documents where they've been having encounters and studying UFO phenomenon. They gave him documents showing how at one point their military used to engage with these things whenever
I don't see why, guys.
They would come in contact, and after 3 different occasions where they engaged with a UFO, all 3 crafts.
I don't see Wyo up there. Hi, Wyo and Vast. I don't see Wyo. Am I missing out?
But 2 pilots were able to eject out of different craft, but the 3rd one, they actually killed the pilots. And after that, the Russian military told them, that's it, don't engage with these things anymore. They have, possible, unknown powers of retaliation, and just to leave them alone. And you got into the whole thing about Psalms 82, about the other gods that are talked about, the gods over the nations that had become corrupted. And that's why in that passage, he says that you shall die like men. Well, the reason why he told them that, because they are gods, that they are going to die like men because they have become corrupted and they corrupt humanity. And his one portion, which was Israel, which was his land that he rules over, you get into the whole thing with the next book or the next film that I'm going to do is going to be over the Nine. And what that gets into is there has been 9 gods throughout every pantheon of every civilization that have ruled over all the other gods. And you get into the Egypt, you look at the Aeneid, and you got the 9 gods that ruled over Olympus. The 9 that ruled over India, the 9 that ruled over Mesopotamia, and so on. It just goes on and on and on. And so I just found that very odd and unique that there's these 9 gods that kept talking about throughout different pantheons and different civilizations. Like, what is up with all this? And then you start looking at some of the stuff that Aleister Crowley said. And he said, I serve my god Lucifer and his Augustus Council of 9. And he actually names all 9 of them. And, the head being Lucifer. So then I'm like, okay, that's, because you start looking at different gods and different, different things. And they all have the same qualities, whether this be the storm god over here, he's a storm god over here, he's a storm god over here. It doesn't matter what. They might have different names, but they're the same entity. And that's where I'm going to go with this next film that I'm going to do is I'm going to get in, I'm going to show how they've been around forever. They've been here since the Garden of Eden, and that they are the Augustus Council of 9. And even Purich and all them who was tied up with Uri Geller, he was part of this group that was making contact with these entities called the Council of 9. And, Gene Roddenberry was tied up in all this. He was part of Lab 9 as well as the Round Table and all the other names that this group all held. But he was sitting there writing every single thing down that these entities were dictating. And this is where we get the TV show Star Trek that everybody is just so beloved and just, and when you really start looking at how much he incorporated of all the stuff that he was being told by these entities into the television show, the 9 crew members on the bridge, the NCC 1701, 1 + 7 + 0 + 1 = 9. And then you got
hence the 9 miners that got killed in the tunnels at CERN.
Space 9. You got the 9 Bajoran gods that live in this wormhole. And I mean, just the more you sit here and start putting all this together, it's like, holy cow. It's like, and then, even when you find out that, what is it? The one that shot Kennedy. Goodness, I can't think of his name.
Oh, Jack, not Osborne. Oswald, right?
Yeah, Oswald. He was mixed up in this group. He was part of this group that was channeling the 9, the Council of 9. It's like, so yeah, that's a whole story all itself. So I was like, okay, this is going to be the next one I'm going to tackle.
I can't wait for that. I kind of messaged you about that a little bit because I just looked up just an article, and if this article is what you're talking about, first of all, let me ask you. So are you saying the Council of 9 are more than likely, if not in your mind already assured, that they are the gods of Psalm 82?
I believe so. They are part of that group.
Wow.
And they are the 9 are the top 9 out of that group that rule over all the other ones.
Interesting. So you got the top 9, and then there's still a layer underneath of that. Which adds to the complexity, which is what I was talking about, which is what you're talking about. There is layers to this, and I honestly wish it was as simple as happy angels, bad angels, demons, Lucifer. That's it. Like and God, right? Like I wish it was that simple, but it seems like there's a whole history of this other realm that we do not have readily accessible information on, that just spells it out for you simply. There's a whole history that is being revealed.
It really is, and that's the thing. Is, you know, a lot of people they know about the fallen angels, they know about the 200 that came down on Mount Hermon back in the days of Jared, but it's like, who were they? Why did they come? What was their purpose? And when you really start digging in and looking into all this, it's not hard to come to the conclusion. It's like this was a complete, think of it like a commando unit, and they were sent here with the intent purpose of blotting out the coming of the Messiah. Because keep in mind, back in the Garden of Eden, when you know what happened, you know, God laid down judgment on the serpent. He said, "I'll put enmity between her seed and your seed," you know, and that, you know, you will bruise his foot while he crushes your head. They already knew what was coming. They knew that there's something to do with the bloodline, and so that is why they sent this commando unit of 200 fallen angels to Mount Hermon to basically corrupt all flesh on the planet and to corrupt all animals on the planet, everything, so that way they could blot out the coming Messiah and prove God to be a liar.
It is amazing to consider all this stuff we've been talking about and how it kind of goes back to ancient times. Is the Council of Nine, is Apollo and Zeus part of that?
Yes.
Man.
And you know about CERN. I know that you know about the Temple of Zeus, which was the same temple that they had disassembled and carried to Nazi Germany. And that was the same temple that whenever Hitler was up there foaming at the mouth giving his speeches, he's standing on the exact same temple that was the seat of Satan, the Temple of Zeus. And so, and it just, you know, again, why are they getting into all these ancient artifacts and ancient symbology and writings and so on? It's like there is a reason and method behind. Even the fact that after World War II, when they moved the temple to Berlin, and then all of a sudden, then the Berlin Wall goes out and everything breaks crazy over there. It's like there's something about these temples, these artifacts and symbols and symbology, all this. There is something to this.
Something to it for sure. And you brought up CERN, and yeah, I kind of want to just pick your brain on what I had messaged you earlier on, because when you mentioned about the Council of Nine, I had just got done looking at something, and I was reading about the 9 miners that lost their lives during the construction of CERN, and how when they had the opening, the ceremony for the tunnel, they did a whole ritual that was honoring those 9 miners. And it was like a passing thought. I think I shot over your way. I was like, is it possible that those 9 miners could have been more along the lines of sacrifices for this Council of 9? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Does it tie together at all, or is it just me reading tea leaves that aren't there?
I mean, I wouldn't think that you could be too far off target. I mean, you could be very close to the truth with all that, because I mean, they love their numbers. We know they love numerology, and you know the whole thing about gematria and so on. And they love their human sacrifices as well. But yeah, there's definitely something to that. And like I said, when you find out that that same temple we were just discussing, the Temple of Apollo was actually moved, but it used to be smack dab right in the middle of the Large Hadron Collider, and that they believe that is where the bottomless pit is located underneath that area in particular.
Wow.
And that they are, and I know that you also, I think you brought up about them when they would fire it up, they kept seeing these portals opening up, and they were seeing entities moving around. And they've been talking about that for a long time, that every time they fire it up, depending on how powerful it is when they do it, that yeah, these things, not only do they appear while they're doing this, but they will go on for weeks after they shut the machine down, that these things continuously start showing up and shadow people moving around out there at CERN and different things like that. So yeah.
Wow. That's bad.
This is Here's Jules and Toby. Jules got everyday pet insurance from Woolworths and gets 10% off.
So if you're the person that works from home, you can often return to work at 3 days, but there is.
It's funny because I live here in East Tennessee and we have our own little mini CERN at Oak Ridge. And I was at a birthday party, a kid's birthday party this past weekend. And I was talking to one of the parents, and he works at CERN, or not at CERN, at Oak Ridge. And I asked him, I said, because he brought about the particle accelerator. And I said, yeah, you know about CERN. And he's like, no, what's CERN? And I was like, oh, brother. I was like, how much time do you have? You know, but do you think that what we see happening at CERN is more than likely happening at these other smaller particle accelerators? I think it's China that was talking about building one that's bigger than CERN, or if they're constructing it now. But I mean, I've heard stories coming out of my local particle accelerator that makes me feel like whatever is happening at CERN is being mirrored in these other locations as well. I know we have one in Chicago area as well.
Yeah, I think there's a couple in Texas as well. There's quite a few of them located all over the United States that most people aren't even aware of. And yeah, I've heard bizarre accounts out of several of them.
Yeah.
Wow, there's several CERNs in America. Wow.
In fact, I believe it was Aaron and Melissa Dykes at True Stream Media. They've done a couple, or at least one episode that I know of, talking about multiple hadron colliders located all over the planet.
It's a fascinating topic to dive down. The whole thing, because it ties into so much stuff. And I think what you do, and people like you really kind of do these deep dives into these topics, and you're really helping to marry it all together for people to see how it is all intertwined and connected. And it's not easy to do because there's so much information out there, but also so many branches to go down that circle back around to one another. I commend you guys for doing what you guys do. So with the idea of Stranger Things, okay, Stranger Things is real. I've already established that. Are monsters creatures coming from other realms into this realm? Do you think that's something that from the TV show can be mirrored into this reality of our lives? I personally say yes, but what do you say?
I say you're 100% correct. In fact, the true story of Stranger Things, when Duncan and all them were out there, which I know that you probably read the book where it ties in with the Philadelphia experiment and all that. They said that the last time that they had fired up the machine, because they had this chair called the Montauk chair that the kids would sit in, and it somehow enhanced their powers, their abilities. And I think that this was tying in with remote viewing, to be honest with you. That was the thing, is that a lot of these children, they were kidnapping them straight off the street. These were like runaway kids. And they would literally torture these kids. I mean, they tortured them, not just psychologically, but physically as well. And they would, beat animals in front of them and kill animals. They would do horrible things to the kids. Talked about picking them up, having like a tub full of ice water and a tub full of hot water, and they would yank them out of one tub and throw them into the other and just keep doing this back and forth until eventually their minds would just shatter. And Russ Dizdar, he in his book, The Black Awakening, I'll never forget one of the things I read in there that he talked about. He said that they shatter their minds to open them up to demonic possession. That is the key takeaway about satanic ritual abuse, that most people just really, they're like, why do they do this? Why do they torture their kids and do these rituals and abuse their children? Well, that's why. They're literally trying to open them up to demonic, because they want something to come in and to inhabit them. They're opening the doorways deliberately. This is why some of these people are just so completely evil. I mean, because they are demonically possessed, straight up. They can be people of power, and people say that what is it? I've heard the thing they say that narcissists make the best businessmen and salesmen because they're just so cutthroat, and it's like they have no empathy whatsoever. Why do you think that is? Because a lot of these people are demonically possessed. That's why they could thrive in business. And the same thing with the music and movie industry. None of these people get into these positions of power unless they sell their souls, and they all openly talk about it. There's a great series that Good Fight Ministries has put out called "They Sold Their Souls for Rock and Roll," and you can hear it straight from the horse's mouth. They will tell you that they literally sold their souls so that they could have positions of power. Look at what's coming out right now with P. Diddy and all this. He's another Epstein. And the thing is that one of the things that I did find out doing this research for the film is that Satanists and espionage go hand in hand. You get into like the intelligence agencies and espionage and all that, you will always come face to face with Satanists, people that are doing satanic rituals. Because even Aleister Crowley and all his cronies, all his buddies, they all work for the intelligence agency. He worked for British intelligence. A lot of people don't know that. It's not a hard thing to uncover. You can do a little digging and you'll find out real quick. Yes, and that was one of the things that they were very embarrassed about. But going all the way back to like John Dee and Queen Elizabeth, they've always gone hand in hand.
I refuse to believe that Taylor Swift is anything but pure-hearted. Okay, sir? So, just kidding. I'm not a Swiftie. But no, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. When you were bringing up the Montauk Project, I just last week was on the phone with a guy. Maybe the recording will happen, maybe it won't. I'm not sure yet for many different reasons. And just to be honest with you, one of the reasons is that I'm not sure it's fair to do that to him. There are some people you're listening. All right, let me just say it this way. I'm talking to the guy and he's telling me about how from his childhood, how certain things happened to him. And one of the things that happened to him was he was called to his principal's house with his parents. And they had this meeting about why he's not working in the school. And he wound up getting put into a program. He later then said that his parents basically sold him into the program. But he would travel from Indiana to New York as a child. They would drive there, and then his parents would fly back and leave him in New York. And he said that he was going into this, he didn't say it was a school, it was like a facility, and they started doing like these tests on him and torturing and this, that, and the other. And he's talking about all this stuff, but he didn't say it as clear as I just said it to you. And after like 30 minutes, I just stopped him. I said, are you talking to me about Camp Hero? Are you telling me you were part of the Montauk Project? He's like, yes. And I said, why didn't you just say that? And he said, I didn't know if you knew what that was. And so I'm like, yeah, I know what that is, And that's what he was talking about. And this is I think a common thing with people that are involved in this stuff is that this affects them their entire lives, that they're trying to recover from it. And he said that he was put into this program with two other kids, and the two other kids, he said, were highly intelligent. He wasn't on that level of intellect. And he said when they were done with these kids were mentally handicapped. They just abused the snot out of them. And but the reason why I say I'm not sure if he's gonna be on or not is because I find that, and I've talked to several people like this man, very hard to get the quote unquote story, the idea out of it. It's all so compartmentalized and chopped up. The story, their life story of them sharing it seems to be very fragmented and doesn't make much sense until you start piecing things together. And I just don't know if it's a good marriage for the show per se. But I hung up with the guy, absolutely believe in him. It's just one of those things where it's so deep and intertwined that the things that people go through, how do you reveal that in an episode, you know? But it's just, again, these government programs being so intertwined with the occult and magic, other realms, trying to bring things in to possess people, demonic entities, monsters coming from other realms. You mentioned Duncan. Reality is mirroring Stranger Things. Reality is mirroring the science fiction.
Oh, and real quick, I didn't finish my thought because I started rattling off, going down a rabbit trail. But you were saying about these things being real and interdimensional, and that cryptids and so on. That the last time that Duncan was in the chair, one of the operators had walked up and said something like "the time is now" or something like that, because they were getting ready to shut the program down. That's when he envisioned some sort of a creature. And what was crazy about it is when this thing showed up on the base out there at Camp Hero that you were talking about.
That's a Montauk monster.
Well, different people saw different things. And I'll bring up another point about Skinwalker Ranch where they had something similar. They talked about how some people said this thing was 9 feet tall, other people said it was 30 feet tall, but they said it was huge and it was hairy. You listen to the description of it, and they say it sounds like a gigantic Bigfoot that just literally went on a rampage and just started destroying everything in sight. And finally, whenever they were able to kill the power to the chair or whatever stuff, that's when it finally came to a conclusion and stopped. But even out at Skinwalker Ranch, in one of the books that I read, they talk about how one night there was 3 men out there somewhere on the ranch. And I don't know exactly what area they were in, but they all 3 saw this light. And what was bizarre was whenever they were using their night vision goggles and so on, they were looking. Each one saw something different. One person saw a triangle. Another person saw a sphere, another one saw a square, but they all saw something different, and they could see that light was emanating from whatever this object was. Even the pilots that encounter some of these craft, they talk about how those multiple pilots will see it, but they talk about different kinds of craft. They're seeing something different. And so, like I said, these things have the ability to appear whatever they want to appear as to us. And so
that is something that has becoming popular with just coming across the desk for me. And most recently, I did an episode with Mike Cleland. I call him the Owl Guy. Like, that's what he does. And I think he probably calls himself the Owl Guy. I mean, if you're looking to figure out why people are seeing owls during, UFO encounters or things like that, he's pretty much the guy for that. And he had his own experiences and stuff that kind of launched him into this research. And he just, he strikes me as more agnostic than anything as far as his perspectives on life. But one thing that he talked about was how people will sometimes have an experience together where they will see a 4-foot, 5-foot owl, right? Like, so say you and I are in the car together and we're like, whoa, what is that? That doesn't exist. A 5-foot owl doesn't exist. I'm like, did you see that? And you're like, yeah, I saw it. I'm like, that owl was huge. And you're like, what owl? I didn't see an owl. I saw an upright walking dog, and like people are they're having an experience, but they're not seeing the same thing. And I think he related to screen memories, and like, so these things, whatever they are implanting memories and visions and ideas into our head, and it's different for each person. And it's an interesting topic to go down, but it's also all this is disconcerting. The fact that we launched the conversation off with the hitchhiker effect, and how just because you have nothing to do with this topic, just because you're in my mere presence and I went to the property, you're susceptible to, having this stuff happen. I think this is all just fascinatingly bizarre. And I guess my last question for you would be, to tie this up, I bring up the hitchhiker effect. With all this stuff that you have been researching and things like that, have you had experiences of hitchhiker effects just by looking into these things?
Don't believe that I've had any experiences as far as the hitchhiker phenomenon, but real quick to add what you were just talking about, Carla Turner, who was one of the leading ufologists out there, who's also a Christian, that has since passed away. She got into a lot of that about them, manipulating how we perceive them sometimes, as well as trying to trick people. She had a story in there talking about that involved her son and her daughter-in-law. And in the story, she talked about how the daughter was outside of the car, and they pulled up, but she didn't remember how she got out of the car. She's just standing there. She knows that the car is to her back, and she's seeing what looks almost like a what is it, like a doorway, but it's camouflaged, or it's like the predator. It looks like the predator. It's just a silhouette, an outline. And she's looking at this, and she keeps hearing her husband tell her, "Come on, come with me," or something like that. And she sees this doorway standing there next to him, and she's just like, I don't want to go over there. And she's like, finally, she says she finally turned around and looked back, and when she turned around and looked back, she saw her husband sitting in the car, frozen, and he was not moving.
Wow.
And at that point, she realized that that was not her husband that was standing in front of her, that it was something posing as her husband, trying to get her to go with it. And even Sharon Gilbert, I don't know, Derek Gilbert's wife, she even tells a story how she one night, there was something posing as Derek laying in her bed. And she said as soon as she laid eyes on it, she knew that that wasn't Derek. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Weet-Bix, how do you do yours? Real life insurance really helped us when Toby's dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He received his cover amount paid direct.
So
that's, well, both are terrifying. One of these days I got to talk to Derek and Sharon Gilbert. It's just one of those things I always say I got to do these things, and I never get around to it, right? But you're talking about this this shimmering doorway, we'll call it. I know what you're talking about. I lack the verbiage myself for it. I've talked about it several times now, even entities appearing that way. But that particular instance where there's this shimmering doorway, her husband's there saying, "Come to me," it really makes you wonder how often that happens, and does that have anything to do with the missing 411 type scenarios where people are going missing seemingly, without a trace? There's no reason or cause to it. They're just gone. I mean, what if well,
that some of the situations where that has happened, where somebody went missing and they vanished, David has a few stories where you can actually hear the person. You can hear them, but you can't see them. You can hear them screaming for help, and they'll walk around for like hours, and they can hear them screaming out, hollering for help, and it's like they're getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until eventually you just can't hear them anymore at all. And yeah, so again, is that they've gone into another reality?
The upside down, man. Like, that's the upside down. Like, literally, she's saying, "Well, I hear you, but I don't see you." And he's like, "Mom, I hear you, but I don't see you." That's wild. That's wild. I'm actually.
Did you ever watch the TV show Debris? Did you ever see that one?
No. Where can I see it?
Yeah, there was you might be able to find it online. It's called Debris. And in one of the episodes, it's about this UFO that came into our galaxy, and as it got closer, it hit something, and it literally disintegrated, and pieces of the ship come raining down all over the planet. Well, different parts of this debris do different things. And in this particular one episode, it has something to do with this. It's illuminating a portal, and they get into the whole thing about portals in this episode. And whenever this piece of debris activates, a portal will appear. You see like this rectangular window, and you can see shadow people moving around in there. They come up close to the thing, and they're all touching it. And come to find out, one of the people that they can hear in there went missing, like, I don't know, maybe about 10, 12 years in the past. And she said that, it comes to find out later on that she had went to go, her and her dad were out shopping. She decided to go back out to the truck. And as she was walking outside to get in the truck, she walked to a portal, and she's been stuck in this dimension all this time. And at the end, they finally able to activate it and open the portal up, and all the people that were trapped inside, there was multiple people. There's like 30 or 40 people that have been trapped in there for different periods of time.
Wow.
So,
all right. So I love talking about this stuff.
So do I.
So from your perspective, this, like, I mean, I don't care if you agree with me or not. I
apparently Paula White was the first person Trump texted when he got announced as the president. Don't know how true that is.
Tend to think that people, whether it's accidental or on purpose, can traverse realms. I don't know how, but I think it's possible. And I have a guy that, and I was talking to you about him actually before we started recording, that at the time of this recording, he'll be getting released for a member show tomorrow or Thursday this week. He basically says just that. I mean, but here's the crazy thing, man. Like he said, as he was entering this other, being taken to this other realm, it was different because I think he said it was like 2 or 3 men, I think bald guys with beards and mustaches were there, and they were kind of caught off guard that he could even, like, he was awake, he could see them. And they informed him that they were preparing him for surgery to have, I guess, physical upgrades for a coming war that he was going to be involved in.
I closed my eyes and I'm going into the other realm, but this time I open my eyes and I'm looking up and it's all white, and then there's 3 men standing above me. So I don't see any colors or anything. I see white, and there's 3 men. They're bald like me. One of them has a mustache. 2 of them have glasses, and they're in white coats. And I start freaking out. 2 of them look at each other, and one of them says, "He's not supposed to see us." And I start fighting, and then that's when, right here right behind my right ear, I feel a poke, and it's like I'm being electrocuted. My body goes into convulsions. It's like I'm being electrocuted. I thought I'm dying. They told me they were upgrading me for war, an upcoming war. Whatever that is, I have no idea. I don't know anything about all this stuff.
And he is one of several people that I've either talked to or know about that have done this traversing of realms. Some people do it through mushrooms or some kind of drug. Some do it through lucid dreaming, and some get to a point where they're able to do it almost on demand. And so, I mean, like, that's my perspective coming from my show, doing my show, talking with people. What are your thoughts on it? Like, do you think that is probably still the science fiction route of things, or do you think people could actually traverse realms through these portals and stuff? Like what the lady you were talking about. I mean, if she would have said yes, do you think she would have gone to another realm that wouldn't have killed her, but she would have been somewhere else?
Now, Shawnee, I might play that tomorrow. I'll do some copyright stuff and play that tomorrow. So I'll watch it tomorrow. I don't like to watch it and then replay it.
That's very well a possibility. And I know that briefly before we got started, I brought up, when you mentioned that, I said something about and I haven't done a whole lot of research into this, but it sounded like something called the Gyros, these entities that can come into our space-time, but usually whenever they are about to appear, people describe that everything around him just starts to get really bizarre. Like, and just some of the stuff that I've read about that, it reminded me also of the Missing 411, where David Paulatz would talk about whenever you are out in the open, and he says that if like everything goes quiet, like the birds, the insects, and the wind goes still, and it gets completely quiet, he said that you need to sit down and stop moving, because he says that usually that's a telltale sign that something's about to happen, so you could end up disappearing. And he said that if you're with somebody, you need to sit back to back and just sit still until the sound and the wind picks back up again. But there's also another thing I did mention to you. One of the things that I got into in the film was a group of individuals called the Riders that Linda Moulton Howe had made contact with through a friend of mine named Ray Boucher. He had put her in contact. You might have heard of Ray Boucher. He's some people know this group as the Collins Elite. It's not necessarily the Collins Elite. That's a name a moniker that somebody gave to them, a writer, and but they were actually known as the Riders. As when Linda Moulton Howe was actually dealing with them and talking to them, this is a group of individuals within the DOJ, the Pentagon, that were witnessing a lot of the satanic rituals and things that were going on at military bases and different things. And they were highly disturbed. Not only was this stuff wasn't being done and being carried out, but that it was very real and that it was yielding results. And so one of the things that they talked about in the paperwork that Ray Boucher sent me, he said that some of these people are being taken, excuse me, some of these people are being taken, and they almost like in suspended animation. It almost looks like they're in crystals, and they are just literally frozen in time. And so that was another thing that they got into that they were talking about, is that some of these people are being taken. They don't know exactly why they're being taken, for what purpose, but they said that they know that they are being taken to other places and that they are literally in like a suspended animation.
So many things to uncover and discover. So little time. So, hey man, listen, I appreciate you hopping on with me and talking about all this stuff. I just think it's so fascinating. You cover so much information on the documentary. The link for the documentary we're going to put in the description of this episode. Again, the title is Skinwalkers and Stranger Things of the Unseen Realm. I love it. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me and, indulging me in my nonsense. I appreciate it. and I just thank you very much, man. It's been a long time. And hopefully we can do it again, especially when you come out with the next one, like the 9 gods, like that's something I want to hear about.
Yeah, I look forward to getting that out, and it's a pleasure as always to come on here and hang out with you, and hopefully we can do it again soon, and I look forward to checking out your film as well.
Still waiting for Mike from around the world, guys. And this caught my attention.
It's more for less with Clarendon's Home Time promotion. Save up to $55,000 on all Aspire range homes and get a build time guarantee. Over 45 years of building homes designed for how you live. Clarendon.com.au.
Hope you're all doing well. We're going to get into a number of things. Talk about Bill Maher and a recent, what was this, a day ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. He had a recent episode with Stephen Smith here, and he's kind of changed his tune. We'll get into that. We're going to get into some news story coming out of apparently Twitter, I think, or X, regarding, of course, Jamie Foxx and his, of course, health scare. We're also going to get into a number of stories about, it looks like rumors. We're talking about President-elect 47, things that are now being said. I'm going to definitely get into this. Let's just start with this one here. So we have here, of course, Steven Smith on Club Random with Bill Maher.
Okay, guys, I've got something else.
Is there really a satanic agenda behind everything happening in Hollywood and the entertainment industry right now? Conspiracy theorists have been talking about this for years, if you're familiar with the Illuminati or anything like that. But what's interesting is, especially recently, amidst all this crazy stuff happening in the world right now, it seems like right is wrong, and wrong is right, and everything's getting flipped upside down and inside out. You have more people, notable people, being more honest about what's happening behind the scenes at a spiritual level. It's like people are less afraid and ashamed to talk about the spiritual war that's happening in our midst, if the spiritual war is real. And in this clip, you have not some sort of washed up entertainer who's trying to make himself relevant again. You have Kid Rock, one of the most famous rock stars on the planet, jumping on the Joe Rogan Experience, probably the biggest podcast on planet Earth, reaching millions of people every single day. And he's openly talking about satanic, demonic agendas happening behind the scenes. And he's talking about it very casually. I want to play this clip for you. I want you to let me know in the comments. Do you think this is legit, or do you think this is a conspiracy? We shouldn't pay any attention to it. I'm going to play this clip for you, and then I want you to stick around because there's another guy who also hopped on the Joe Rogan Experience, totally different person from the entertainment industry, who says something very similar and very eerie. I think it's worth paying attention to. So let's watch this clip. And also, mind you, this is Joe Rogan's podcast. So if there's cursing, there likely will be right away. So if you don't like that, plug your ears, tell your kids to plug their ears. But nevertheless, let's watch this clip, share my thoughts, and then I'll share the Juggernaut clip at the end of this. Watch.
But he went with Alex to Bohemian Grove, and they filmed these rituals. These people dressed like druids, and they're burning this effigy in front of a giant owl statue.
No, I was at the owl statue, which is fucking hilarious. So I'm there on day one, right? And we're drinking beers. Like, it's pretty laid back. There's some really cool talks. Remember this dude talking about shooting asteroids out that might hit the Earth in so many years, shit like that. I'm like, fuck, this is cool.
Oh,
But the first day, it was the first evening, and you gather around whatever that owl by this lake, if I remember correctly, which could be a little hazy. It was a long time ago. And like, I've heard about this place. I'm like, this is some real secret ass shit, man. I can't believe I'm fucking here, right? And it's just a trove of celebrities, fucking everywhere you turn. It's just fucking A, fucking A. So you go there, and I'm like thinking, we're gonna hear some shit.
Told you, a lot of cursing. But listen to what he's saying. If you can stomach it, push past how he says it and listen to what he's talking about. He's referring to an event early on in his career. He's at one of these parties. You probably heard about these satanic parties in Hollywood. He's at one of these parties, and he's starting to see like this weird sort of worship of this owl statue. He's like all these people dressed as druids in the woods. And again, people might think this is just entertainment, it's just a game. But is it? Let's keep listening.
Shit, right? They're about to introduce the first speaker, and I'm like, fuck, this is gonna be some shit. And they're like, and no offense against this guy, we consider him friendly. We have very good mutual friends, but they're like, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Danza. And I'm like, what? I'm like, come on, man. Who's the fucking boss? Tell them bitches. Wish you would have just gone up there and be like, who's the boss, bitch?
That's hilarious.
I was like, no fucking way, man. I was like, we came all the way to this secret ass shit. And I love Tony. Fucking love him. But I'm like, come on, man. I was like, they brought Reagan back from the dead, and he's going to speak or hologram or some shit. Like,
you were hoping for some devil shit.
That's just some crazy shit, one way or the other. He's a very good speaker, I got to say, but
maybe they toned it down. Maybe they toned it down.
This has to be 20 years ago.
Infiltrated. Oh, really?
I'm terrible with dates, but it's a long time ago.
Okay, because when Alex snuck in was like, this is like the 90s, Jamie? What was it? Like when Alex Jones and John Watson snuck into Bohemian Grove. That's when they first got that video.
Yeah, Shawnee, I like Cap as well. I played a bit of his stuff anyway. I don't know if you remember, but I have played a few of his videos.
Yeah, I want to say it was in the 90s. I want to say it was like 99 or something like that.
I did have some fun there, I gotta say. It was fucking weird. I met like Paul Pelosi and his son.
Oh boy.
And like Chris Matthews.
What? Paul Pelosi? I'm guessing that's Nancy Pelosi's husband. Chris Matthews, news anchor. What are all these people doing behind the scenes at this weird party in the woods with this owl worship, this giant statue of an owl? Strange.
Like, you know, but I was hanging out with them. We were having cool conversations. Kind of weird. And then they asked me, like, I had to come play my guitar.
Oh, no.
And, like, sing at one of these camp things. I was like, I feel so used. I feel so dirty. Like, I don't do this shit, man. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's got to be weird. Hey, man, play us a song.
Well, it's kind of like a unspoken requirement, like a wink, wink. Like, you need to take your guitar over there, you know, if you want to be in good graces or be a team player type deal. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't.
So sounds like, you know, as the clip gets cut off there, he's meeting these people, politicians, artists, entertainers behind the scenes, even news anchors. And they're saying, if you want to be in our good graces, you need to kind of perform the way that we want you to perform. It sounds like, you know, he said, no, I'm not going to be doing that. But why do you have so many entertainers talking about very similar stories? Whether it's like, we need you to do this, or we need you to wear this dress if you're a guy. You have a lot of people talking about that. In fact, I'll share briefly. Cat Williams, the guy, that's the clip I'm going to show you next, who's also on the Joe Rogan Experience, has talked about that in the past. You have all this sort of stuff like coming out in the open about people making these weird deals in order to get fame and get notoriety and get, you know, make a lot of money. The point is of this, like this story is related to this scenario right here. This was, I think, from Alex Jones, you know, guy who runs InfoWars, super controversial conspiracy theorist type figure, yet he talks about a lot of things that end up coming to pass. And this was like an expose that he did where he actually he wore a camera, or he had a camera with him, went undercover and actually filmed this sort of ritual happening in the woods. Now, let me tell you, when you look at this ritual, does this not look like something that happened back in the days of the children of Israel when they were commanded by God not to do the same rituals and perform the same sacrifices that the neighboring nations did? There's nothing new under the sun, guys. Here's what I want to tell you. The same spirit that people worship back then, the pagans worshiped back in the days of ancient Israel, those same spirits are around today. They're eternal beings, and they still demand worship. They overpromise and underdeliver. What happens if you worship them? They'll give you like money and fame, but at the expense of your soul. And we're seeing this happen today. And what's really crazy is why is it happening with all these famous people? Why is it happening with people in the entertainment industry? Why is it happening with people in politics? Why is it happening with people in big business? And in the past few years, it's like you're seeing all these crazy agendas being jammed down our throat from these big entertainers and big companies. And you go to like a sports game and you see this propaganda everywhere. NHL wearing rainbow tape on their hockey sticks. Like, what is happening? Why is there such a push? And what can we do about it? I want you to stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to share also an example for you about how you and I can practically stop pushing these agendas forward, stop partnering with this spirit, because this spirit is showing up everywhere in the culture. You can go to switchwithcap.com. I'll share with you more later. Switchwithcap.com to learn how you can change up everyday purchases that you would make, whether it's for laundry detergent, perfume, protein powder, or even steak. Get the best quality stuff made in America, extremely affordable, oftentimes cheaper than what you get at Walmart or Target or these places that are pushing these agendas all the time. And it's non-toxic, which is great. Non-toxic, non-woke, made in America. Go to switchwithcat.com to schedule an appointment with my team. My team wants to help you figure out how you can move your purchasing decisions to stop little by little funding these companies that are truly unashamed about promoting demonic agendas. Go to switchwithcap.com to learn more. I want to share with you another clip, though, from the Joe Rogan Experience. This is Cat Williams talking about a very similar thing, but specifically in regards to the trans movement. So check this out. This is crazy. We're going there. We're going there. Today's video of Cap Reacts.
Let's go there.
But I think it's important because the devil's unashamed.
Yep.
The devil is so unashamed to promote this stuff, and he's overplayed his hand, and I'm excited for the children of light to expose the works of the devil and to destroy them.
Propaganda in Hollywood movies
So that's brilliant what he said. He's a good speaker, Cat.
is built into the ingredients list. It's like if you want flour, you need wheat. Like, you're gonna have to get the wheat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people that, it would be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society, and this is and this is our hero. Because our hero is going to go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government, and in turn, they don't fuck with you.
Right. But that's what makes information so powerful.
So Cat Williams, if you don't know, famous comedian. He was just on a guy's show named Shannon Sharp from ESPN called, I think it's called the Shay Shay Show or Shay Shay Podcast or something. And he was openly talking about a lot of the stuff he's going to be talking about right now. And the question is why, what's the motivation?
Get ready to spend smart and save big this Black Friday and Cyber Monday with hot deals found by our trusted experts.
Behind these entertainers being willing to put their brand and reputation on the line to start exposing things that they're seeing behind the scenes. What's the motivation? Can't possibly be good for them if this, in regards to being smeared as a conspiracy theorist. Yet, nevertheless, they're being open. They're sharing these consistently similar stories. So listen to the story he has to share.
Is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah. And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I was like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses. And everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. Mm-hmm. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because...
So first he's talking about how there's this trend where you see men, and the pattern has been black men who were told on set to wear a dress.
Yeah.
To like demasculate themselves, to effeminize themselves, to wear a dress.
It's not just black men.
And then he's saying that the pattern is when they wear the dress, all of a sudden they have a breakthrough in their career. And he's talking.
Will Ferrell went on the Jimmy Kimmel show wearing a dress. So they do it to the white guys as well.
About, he talks about a handful of different comedians who've had to do that or have chose to do that. And then all of a sudden they blew up. They became extremely famous. Dave Chappelle even said that he was asked to wear a dress, and he's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna wear the dress. And then shortly after that, this was maybe a decade ago, he was called crazy. He went to Africa. He left the United States, smeared for not being a part of that game and not playing with that agenda. And so here we are. Cat Williams is expressing a similar thing. Now he's talking about he knew that this whole trans explosion in America, he knew that this would happen like 20 years ago.
So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender. And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things would become popular in the future, and that somehow calling people the GOAT would be normalized over.
That point right there, oh my gosh, there's so much I would love to talk about with this. The demonic nature behind the whole trans deal that's just being pushed everywhere. And the fact that parents, like the push is to take away the right from parents to help direct their kids in the right direction. Seems like teachers these days have more authority to be able to help a kid define what their gender is than parents do, which is insane. But this whole thing about the GOAT, like our whole culture, like worships the GOAT. What? GOAT, the greatest of all time. But you're seeing this conversation around the GOAT all over the place. He's making an allusion to it.
How calling people the GOAT would be normalized over the sheep being always the most popular reference.
God damn, we got some good weed, Cat. Jesus Christ.
This must be the weed time.
Trying to figure out how to jump in on that.
Right. Which is my only goal.
Do you reckon he's really sitting there smoking a joint? Looks like it, doesn't it?
Just wonder whether or not all the stories in the Bible, it's just where we are experiencing it. Like the mark of the beast thing that we were talking about earlier. If that is not, I think if you had to tell a story for so many years, before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down, and you're telling a story about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them, and then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines, and people became just meat zombies controlled by corporations. That would be
which is kind of what's happening right now with Elon Musk's Neuralink. Did you know that that's a piece of technology that is about to go to market? I think they just had their first successful experiment with it, putting a microchip in a human's brain. Allegedly, this is to help people who are paralyzed be able to regain function in their bodies simply with their thoughts. But what happens when you have a whole population that gets access to this technology where they can put an implant in their brain that allows them to control the world around them with their thoughts? Sounds like a lot like the Garden of Eden when Satan said, if you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will be as wise as God, knowing the difference between good and evil.
Cat Williams.
People are trying to play God and get really close to being like him in that way, and the writing's on the wall, in my opinion.
The mark of the beast. That'd be a demonic thing. If a demon tricked human beings into wearing a hat that turned you into a zombie, that demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head.
Well, the demon itself is not technology. The demon is Satan. The enemy of our souls is Satan, and he's playing the same trick that he's been doing since the beginning of time, trying to convince people that God is holding out on them, that if they follow him and basically trade in their birthright as being children of God, that they can have everything that they could desire, which comes back to these weird rituals, right? Like you just play according to our rules, and we'll provide success, we'll provide power, we'll provide fame. Same exact thing that Satan said to Jesus in the wilderness. If you bow down and worship me, I will give you all these things. I will give you power. I'll make you ruler over all of these towns and cities and countries. It's the same play. And what the devil is doing today is he's overplaying his hand. And thankfully, even though Joe Rogan is not a Christian, Joe Rogan is absolutely, the Holy Spirit is definitely doing a work in his heart, is having him rethink things.
He had Tucker Carlson on his show talking about a demon possessing him. So Joe Rogan's getting interested in Christianity.
That he thought he had fully understood before. Now he's forcing people like him and millions of others to say, maybe there's more to this whole universe than meets the eye. Maybe there actually is a spiritual battle going on. I want to read for you Ephesians chapter 5, verses 11 through 13. Here's what God tells us. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, for whatever makes manifest is light. Let me tell you, you and I, whether you like it or not, we were ushered into a spiritual battle, a battle between the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to encourage you, you might be starting to see the reality of the work of darkness, and it's forcing you to ask yourself, how do I get on the side of the kingdom of light? It doesn't happen through just red pilling. It doesn't happen just through watching conservative content. There's one answer that will save your soul, that will seal you for eternity and ensure that you don't experience the torment that everybody who goes down this path, this wide path that leads to destruction. That one solution is King Jesus, the man of God, the Son of God, who came to planet Earth to live, that lived the life that you and I could never live, that died the death that you and I deserved on a cross for your sin and for my sin. He says, turn from the way that leads to destruction, turn from the wide path that leads to hell, and follow me. There is no middle ground. There is no fence. You're either on King Jesus's team, or you are illicitly worshiping Satan, following your own selfish desires, which ultimately leads to your destruction. But Jesus has so much more for you. You and I must choose today who we are going to follow, who we're going to serve. We need to ask God to give us discernment. We need to ask the Holy Spirit to reveal to us what the heck is going on. Because let me tell you,
I think vaping's worse for you than cigarette, isn't it? Smoking's not as bad as vaping, as far as I can tell, as far as I know.
all of this stuff, the devil is trying to deceive as many people as possible, because he knows that his time is coming to an end, and he wants to destroy as many people with him. He knows that his destination is the lake of fire where there's burning and weeping and gnashing of teeth forever. He wants to bring as many people down that path with him as possible. It's his only shot at getting back at God for giving him the punishment he deserves for his rebellion. Don't go down that path with him. Give your life to Jesus. Say, Father, fill me with your Holy Spirit. Give me discernment in these days to expose the works of darkness and to make manifest the works of the light. That's God's portion for you.
Okay, Mike from around the world, he's still 15 minutes away, guys. So I'll do another cut one. He's on a roll.
Form of not just spiritual warfare, but of act. You learn something new every day. Did you know that the United States government is actually using psychics and mediums, or has used them, to channel demons as a form of not just spiritual warfare, but of actual physical warfare? Here's where this gets really crazy. In this short clip that I'm going to share with you from the Sean Ryan show, you have a psychic who is exposing how the federal government is actually using spiritual warfare in real-time war. But this is where things get really crazy, because at some point in this interview, Sean Ryan actually asked this woman a question about the crucifixion of Jesus, of course, and her response will absolutely startle you, and it'll actually give you the heebie-jeebies. It'll make it so clear to you that there is an absolute war between the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. So let's dive into this first part. I'm going to share with you this clip. Basically, it's a little bit of a trailer giving it an overview of how this woman and other mediums and psychics are being used to perform this warfare. And then I'm going to share with you some scripture before we get to the end that'll actually show you how this is this shouldn't be surprising to us at all. There's nothing new under the sun. Governments and kingdoms have been doing this since the beginning of time. Check this out.
How did you get selected for the remote viewing program?
I had found out that Army intelligence, where I was working, had these psychics, remote viewers. I didn't know it. So I asked to meet General Stumblefield to see if I really wanted to go to the job. In January 1986, I got approached by the people at Fort Meade they sent someone down to interview me for the job, and it took 6 months to get from Army intelligence to the Defense Intelligence Agency to work as a remote viewer. We were doing hostages, and we were running the information from Fort Meade to Bolling Air Force Base. So whatever hostages I was working, they were running the information up, and the people were taking the information and giving it to the Israeli embassy, and the Israelis were acting on the information. Now, we got a call one Sunday, and they said that there was a Marine, Rich Higgins. He was a Marine colonel. He went to Lebanon, and he was kidnapped. And they asked if we could find him, and they were very concerned because he was military, and they were afraid he was going to be killed. But they did not know where he was. So I went to a piece of imagery, and I said, he's right there. And I pointed to where Higgins was.
Wow.
The military people in the office said, well, there's nothing there. It's all.
Wow, that was years ago, she said. So imagine how advanced they are now. Wow.
Woods. Why would he be there? Sometimes they let hostages go.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a hostage that was let go by Hezbollah, and it was a German guy, Cordes. So our analyst went over to Rhine-Main in Germany to debrief him. And our analyst asked, do you know where Higgins is? And Cordes, the released hostage, said, he's right there. He pointed to where I had pointed to.
Wow.
And
did you just catch that?
The analyst.
Machinery, have your one-stop machinery shop.
So they're trying to find this.
Remote viewing is also in the Bible, where it says, thou shalt not be observers of time. That's exactly what remote viewing is, observing time.
Hostage, and they have this lady who's apparently a psychic who apparently
Okay,
can
Shawnee,
channel
good night.
in her
bless.
mind, not demons,
Happy
channel
Thanksgiving.
spirits, channel the spirit world, maybe astral project and get intel, supernatural intel to figure out where these hostages were. She gets intel about a hostage. She points to a map and a place that is like, there's no way that a hostage would be there. It's like the middle of the woods. They ask another hostage who had been released, and he said, yes, the guy is actually in that exact area. So what do you think? You think this is real? Let me know in the comments right now if this is real or if this is
It's real.
just hogwash.
Just looked at him and said, but there's nothing there but woods. And Cordes said, no, they built a structure there to put Higgins in. And that's where he was.
All right, yo, this is crazy. Okay, so this is a real operation that they were performing. This was during I think during the Cold War, called the Remote Viewing Program. So this isn't just like using satellites. This isn't using drones. This is using people who can channel spirits and getting basically like 30,000 foot view of what's going on in the world. This is what's really interesting. This type of warfare has actually been used all throughout human history. This is what it says in Daniel chapter 2, verse 2. This is in the kingdom of Babylon. Then the king of Babylon, King Nebuchadnezzar, gave the command to call the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams.
I'll jump on now.
boy, we've got a lot of people screaming no sound, but that's not true. People can hear just fine. I know. Sometimes we're a little spoiled because I'm usually in my Florida studio that is, it'll set it up so perfect. Everything sounds so great, stereo and everything. Mike's going to be here any minute. Now, if you want, yeah, get your tickets tonight, guys. We're only 8 days away. Are we 8 days away? Today's the 28th. Yeah, we're 8 days away. December 6th. We're 8 days away from this webinar. This would be a perfect time to get. It's unbelievable. People can't hear. I don't understand. I'm just trying to understand. Should they just push? Should they refresh their page? Why can't they hear? Why do they say they can't hear? Maybe they have it set to where they only hear out of one side, and that side's not on, and so they have nothing on this side. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Then you have people saying, like, we hear you loud and clear, Pastor. Don't worry about it. We can hear. Everybody should be able to hear. But maybe they're having a hard time. Yes, now it will sound monotone tonight, monologue.
Tell them to reboot, Paul.
I'm on mono because I'm not in the studio. But the music sounds stereo. I just wish I could do better. Sorry, but I'm on the road.
Oh, don't bring your music
like I said,
out.
my son, we're here for Thanksgiving. Take care of my parents for the next few days. Brock and his wife are taking a break. They have been taking care of my parents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year and a half straight, and we've given them a 4 or 5 day weekend break. And so we're taking care of them, mom and dad and Heidi's uncle, and
he put him up in his RV in his backyard.
Bear with me here on this, okay? Okay, and then I'll be back in Florida in a few days, and then we'll get back on everything perfect. Mike's gonna be here any minute. I'm gonna read this again. This is Mike told us on December the 14th is the Babylon hour. He called it the Babylon hour. It's coming. Mike's presentation.
That sounds like the fall of the U.S., doesn't it?
In this webinar is the best presentation, is the best interview with him ever in these 10 or 11 years that I've been interviewing him. He is by far the greatest interview of all. I don't know how you can beat it. He is so very, very open and candid. It's just incredible. Okay? It really, really is. And so, you know, I just want to say to everybody that you got to get a ticket for this, okay? Go to my website for Spiritual Warfare. Get your ticket. We're only 8 days away. You don't want to miss this one. Do not miss this webinar. You will regret it, because when everyone else hears it, they're going to say, oh, my Lord, I didn't realize that this was going on, that we were in this time frame, okay? So do not miss this. Let me read this before Mike gets here. Revelation 17, here's what it says. And there came one of the 7 angels which had 7 vials, and he talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show thee unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, which is the seas, which means people, with whom the kings of the earth, world leaders, have committed fornication, spiritual adultery, idolatry, occult worship. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. The inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. They've been seduced, their lust for power, that they have turned their backs on Christ. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Same thing it says in Revelation chapter 13. And the woman, the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having the golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. It's demonic, it's a cult, it's the sacrifice of babies, it's the blood of the saints, it's the murder of the church, it's the hatred and anti-Semitic attack on Israel, it's the whole blasphemous mess. And she's carrying it around in a cup, drunk on it, riding the beast, the New World Order. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. There's people, I get this all the time. Begley, we're going to be raptured. We don't have to worry about any of this. That's later. The church ain't in Revelation after chapter 4. Really? You should read Revelation 19. That's when the marriage supper of the Lamb takes place. That's when Christ is finally married to the Lamb. That's when to the bride. That's when the Lamb is married to the bride. It's in Revelation 19. We're here. Okay? We're here right now, and they're persecuting us all over the world. Trust me. You know, I'm tired of the fluffy puffy preachers. They've just got to quit this. They've got to quit saying that and preach the Bible like it says. Quit saying that we're gone after chapter 4 when we're not. Go read Matthew 24.
Okay, Paul, you make a lot of money through this YouTube channel. Where do you spend your money? Where do you help the poor? Can you tell us what you do apart from yell?
Read Mark 13. Read Luke 21. Read 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. Read the Word. We have to, look, we're going to get raptured. We will. But we're not gone yet. And there's some stuff in here that's going to happen. They're going to drink our blood before Christ comes. And that's still not the wrath of God. None of the persecution. The persecution of the church is not the wrath of God. The wrath of God is the judgment of God poured upon humanity who have rejected Christ. Persecution of the beast of the church, that is not the wrath. It's two different things. Okay, I got to read on. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Yeah, it's in Revelation 17. And with the blood of martyrs of Jesus. Yeah, the church is still here. When I saw her, I wondered with a great admiration. The angel said to me, wherefore didst thou marvel? Why are you admiring this? I will tell thee the mystery of this woman and of the beast that carries her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. And the beast that thou sawest was and is not and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. That's Apollyon. And go into the perdition or hell. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet it's already here. It is yet. And here is the mind which has wisdom, the 7 heads of the 7 mountains, or the 7 continents of the earth on which the woman sits. And there were 7 kings, 5 have already fallen, 1 is, another one is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must be continued for a short space. That's that 7-year period. And that's the Antichrist. That's the New World Order. That's this little short period. And the beast which was and is not, even he is the 8th and is part of the 7 and goeth into hell, perdition. And so the 10 kings come. We read that's why we wrote the book. Are you serious? Mike from around the world. How are you? Happy Thanksgiving, Mike.
And you too, Pastor Paul. Doing great tonight.
Good. You sound good. That's great. With the world in the chaotic state it's in.
It is fragile.
Very fragile. That's your word. You know, look at you. If you could see the title of tonight's broadcast, Mike, the Babylon Hour. I know you said that's coming December 14th, but I thought I'd get out ahead of it, you know, and see if you want to talk about this. I mean, when you say the earth is fragile, okay, is the peace agreement, is the ceasefire a little fragile right now?
Oh, yeah, it is. In fact, Netanyahu said that any violation of the peace agreement, of that ceasefire, he would, respond with force. So there we are with that. And there has been some exchanges of fire, so it's already, starting to crumble. It's just that Hezbollah, they really can't be trusted. They can't do that. And there are multiple groups within Hezbollah, right? And so just because they have a ceasefire with one of the groups of Hezbollah does not ensure that somebody else won't take advantage of it. These guys there's something else.
Well, during the time, we took out, I think, about the top 13 ranking. I mean, we took out the top guy who was in charge of Hezbollah for 32 years, and we took out the political leader of them, and then we took out like a bunch more. I mean, like the top 13 guys are dead. So who's running the show? And like you said, there's different factions of Hezbollah, right?
Yeah. And that really ignites when you destroy. The bad part about a group like that, when you cut off the head, more pop up. They're ambitious people who just pop up, and they will, take that command. Now, Biden and Macron have gotten together, and they have made a statement that they would ensure a ceasefire. And, they mean militarily too, right? Boy, we're in it. That could get very ugly quite quickly.
So Macron is always in the middle of this. Can we talk about that? Why? I mean, Dr. Irvin Baxter, back when he was alive, and I remember interviewing him in 2018 on television at that time. And he said to me, I asked him, I said, do you have a top 10 list of who could be the Antichrist? And he said, oh yeah, there's 10 guys I'm watching. Of course, we still don't know, he said, but keep your eye on Macron. And here he is. He's brokering the ceasefire. He's everywhere.
No.
He's very ambitious. He is everywhere. And it reminds me, I guess, this Babylon's hour, right? That's a deep spiritual thing that I just, I can't shake it, right? And it kind of reminds me of the of Revelation 17. In fact, a certain view of Revelation 17.
Let's hear that, because I've read it.
Well,
I've read it twice before you came on. I've read Revelation 17. So let's hear it. Yeah, talk about it.
And please, for everybody out there, I am not, don't stick to my view to anything, right? I just have certain things in my heart. So
go ahead.
This woman, right?
Yeah.
This woman that sits atop the beast. I'm gonna read one small fragment of Revelation 17, right? Because it helps to explain something. And he says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they have no kingdom as of yet, but they receive power as kings 1 hour. These have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb. The Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords, King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are the peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Here's the thing. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God should be fulfilled. And the woman that thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So I thought about that. So, why in the world, the beast, all these elements that make up the beast, they hate this woman. And so I kind of looked a little deeper into the woman. She's drunken with the blood of the saints, right?
Yes, she is.
And when you start reading those descriptions, I know a lot of people have their ideas, right? I know they do.
Yes.
One thing I want to point out is that the beast hates her. Now, that means somebody has no placement. Let me explain. In the Bible already says in the New Testament that the mystery of iniquity doth already work.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
This woman has mystery Babylon on her forehead, which means it's a hidden Babylon. It's not obvious. Nobody can see it. But the beast hates her. How can the beast hate such a, ugly character, whatever that? And then that's when the Lord showed me let's just say some pieces came to me. The woman, now this is just my idea. This is mine. The woman is the fallen state of this world. The woman is.
Okay.
The blood of the martyrs of Jesus Christ, in combination with, the one that reigns over the kings of the earth. She reigns by way of sin. She's drunken with the blood of the martyrs because it was the fallen state of Jerusalem.
I actually like that the beast is the state of the nations. I actually like that.
That killed Jesus. It was not the righteous state.
Oh, that's true.
Just like us. It's the sin it's almost like a duality, the sinful part of something. That's why the beast hates her. But the world operates by what? By the sinful part of what could be righteous. The world's not operating by righteousness. And so when this woman that sits atop the beast, could it be the state of the world, or the world and as a whole, all those people who are not holy, who can't stand Christ, who did kill him, who have these ideologies that are abominations? Could that be what this woman is? Because we know what the beast is.
Yes, we do.
But the woman is out of place.
Yeah, well,
But
she's
we know
riding. Yeah, she rides along.
She rides to be. That's right. And the beast hates her.
But the beast hates
right?
her. You got to.
It hates her. So if the beast hates her, she's not part of the beast, but she rides atop. I do believe the beast is the real, because it says as Satan, earlier in Revelation, it says the dragon gave the beast his power, seat, his great authority.
That's right.
Right. So you have these kingdoms of the earth, but the fallen part, the wicked part of these places, I believe, is that woman. I believe it's the wicked part, and God will destroy the wicked parts. All the darkness of the earth will soon be destroyed.
Amen.
It will, after it rears its head, but the beast does not like her. And when it says God has put it in the hearts of these 10 kings to fulfill his will, right, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God should be fulfilled, to me, that can only be the indignation of the Lord, his repayment of this woman, of Babylon itself, right? So this woman is out of place.
Yeah.
In the world right now today, there's a mystery religion that's behind everything in this world. We know sin is rampant, and it's very difficult to see.
Right.
In fact, I'd say 80% of your listeners may not know the depth of sin of this world. They may not know it.
I think you're right. I don't think we do. I mean, I don't even think I know it. I mean, I know a lot of darkness, and I know there is darker darkness than dark, but yeah, you're right. Probably 80% of us don't really know the total depth of it. I mean, it would shock us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's some of the stuff is pretty dark. It's probably not healthy for a person to know, but I believe the fallen state of this world, as it attempts if sin does reign over the kings of the earth. If you think about it, they're driven by greed. They're driven by lust for power. They do things they shouldn't do. Most of them are highly corrupted. And they're just hungry and lustful for these, earthly things. So this woman could represent the fallen part of humanity, of this, and God is going to do away with that.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good point, because the beast hates the woman. The woman
hates her.
But the woman's drunk on the blood of the
That's
saints,
right.
so she's not.
That's right.
And then in verse 8 it says, "The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit." Now we know Apollyon in chapter 9 comes out of the bottomless pit.
Yep.
We know in chapter 11 he's the one that kills the 2 witnesses. And now in chapter 7 and 13 that we know the beast is, of course, the New World Order. The whole government. And then here you are in verse 17, and here's that beast again from the bottomless pit. But the woman's riding on the beast, and then the beast hates the woman. So it's like,
that's right.
It's
that's
like,
right. She has no placement.
Yeah, no placement.
It's almost like Satan. Satan does this. Does not Satan jump into a person, influence a person, use them up, and then destroy them?
Yes. Yes.
He's not going to befriend them. He's not going to accept them as family or anything else. He will destroy a human being once he gets into their lives. He don't want to befriend them. He'll put them in positions of, power in his kingdom or do things with them, but then he destroys them. Everything he does will eventually destroy a human being. And with this, what does he do with this woman? He burns in the Bible. It says he's going to eat her flesh and burn her with fire. He's going to make her desolate.
Yeah.
He's going to make her empty. So his whole ideology is to utilize humanity against the living God by way of corruption and then destroy us. He didn't want to make a utopia for us. He's still trying to preserve his own fallen kind.
He don't care about us.
So that puts us, it's almost like that the fallen state of humanity, again, is that woman.
So who is this woman? Is she a false? Is she a religious false? Is she? What is she? I mean,
I've heard people say they have many ideas and thoughts, right?
Yeah.
If I do.
Okay, here's what I've heard. The beast is Islam, and the lady riding the beast is Saudi Arabia. And the reason the beast hates Saudi Arabia is because Saudi Arabia does a lot of business with the West. So that's why they don't like Saudi Arabia. I don't know how true that is, but that makes sense.
I just honestly believe after going through the whole gamut of what she could be, I've heard God, when he corrected his own people, he had a declaration against them in the book of Jeremiah that indignation was against his fallen state, the rebellious part of his people. And that once that indignation is passed, that's how they go into Jerusalem and set up the abomination of desolation. That is his indignation. But once that's passed, that's it. And he's doing that to purge his vineyard. Isaiah chapter 5, purging his vineyard of all that does not belong there. And after that's done, then he fights for Jerusalem himself. It's almost like he utilizes Jerusalem to draw the enemy close.
Oh, that's true.
And then everybody in their hearts who is set against Jerusalem, they just mark themselves because they went against him.
So you're saying Jerusalem kind of exposes them, right? I mean, they get drawn in, but they get exposed. I mean,
yeah, the evil people. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so they go in there and set up the abomination of desolation, but that's what 3.5 years they will occupy. Then they're done. Then God will get rid of them. Yep. But the fallen state of the people, the sinful side of the world that does not want to repent, the entertainment, all this stuff that goes on, the crime, all this stuff, I strongly believe that is that woman. I think it's why Mystery Babylon is on the forehead, because a mystery means hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden.
It's not obvious. You can't see it.
Well,
I've heard a lot of people say America's Babylon. Well, no, that's not true, because we everything nations do is quite obvious. They're not hiding what they're actually doing. They're not doing that. But just like us, we have an old man to us. A second component to every human being. Once we get saved, there's an old man. We become new creatures in Christ.
Amen.
God is not against the new creature. God delivered us from the old man, right? And those who don't accept him, they remain that old man, which will eventually be destroyed.
So does this woman control the beast for a while, and then the beast kills her? I mean, or the beast turns on her? I mean, how does that?
I don't even think.
What's going on with this?
Her position, is my own opinion, because when the angel explained it, it said she sits where the seven mountains are, right? She's sitting right in the middle of that. Yes. So it may not be that she's riding it. It may be that she's found in the midst of these nations.
Okay.
She's found in the midst of the nations. I know a lot of people have drawn pictures of her riding the beast, but I don't think it's like that. I think that's just simply her location, her whereabouts. Okay. She's in the midst of these nations. Because right after this, you hear about the destruction of Babylon.
Yes, right? We do. Yes, we do.
And we have that the beast hates her, is going to make her desolate, eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That same declaration is upon the wickedness of the earth. And that's before the wrath of God. That same declaration is upon the earth.
Definitely before the wrath of God.
The same declaration. So this thing, I believe this woman with Mystery Babylon on her forehead represents all that is unholy. So because if the beast hates her, the beast does not like humanity either.
So all this persecution, the drinking of the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Christ, that isn't the wrath of God. I mean, we're talking about
No.
people get tribulation or persecution of the church. They get it mixed up. They think that's all part of the wrath. That's not. That's two different things. The wrath of God is judgment. The persecution of the church and the murdering of the saints, that's the beast killing. I mean, that's the attack, right?
That's right.
So let me ask
you know what I tell people all the time?
Yeah.
I don't know about them, but since day one, my life has been under persecution.
Amen.
I don't know
I don't know why they're not being persecuted, because we've been dealing with it for years. All right, Mike, let me ask you this question. Here we go. Okay, China. Let's talk about China, Russia, and the Middle East, and America. Okay, Trump's coming in. There's definitely a change of the guard. That's a spiritual change too. It's not just don't you agree? It's not just a governmental change.
It is.
But what's this deal with this Chinese ship dragging an anchor for 100 miles, destroying these cables that went from Sweden to Lithuania and from Norway to Germany, just destroying the fiber optic cable communications? And then it's a Chinese ship that did it, but it's a Russian captain.
Yeah.
Mike.
Well, I am highly skeptical. Here's why. About a week ago, right, there was chatter that Russia was planning something by way of the oceans. Russia was. So there was a bulletin sent out.
Good night, Bill. God bless, mate.
All of a sudden, this happened, right? Is that a coincidence?
Wow.
And to drag an anchor 100 miles. First of all, when a ship moves, these modern day ships, right? There are safety mechanisms on these ships.
Right.
When you drop an anchor, the ship knows that anchor.
Lights and bells go off, right?
It also can tell you, because it can tell you the depth of the anchor.
Right.
You have a machine that will count the length of that chain, and it will tell you the depth of the anchor. To drag it 100 miles, well, first of all, it snags something when you're doing that. Those engines, that ship would. That's right, they would. If it has isopods on there, they're going to turn into a specific direction. You're going to have high revs and RPM. You're going to have corrected measures and certain alarms go off. There's no way they did not notice that. One person can drive that whole ship. And that ship, even if it's set on autopilot, would give one of those critical alarms, especially about the anchor. I don't see how the boat could go forward with the anchor dropped.
I don't either.
I just don't see that. I don't see that, because I know for a fact those ships have certain safety protocols in them. Well, that ship is not going to move with that anchor unless you do what's called that deals with a port override. So somebody at the port who has the highest, enough authority can override that. But it was out to sea, right? It was out to sea. So I personally, I believe that Russia, and I know they laughed when they blamed it on them, but Russia, there was an intel report out not more than a week ago, and a bulletin concerning Russia and movements in the ocean.
Yes.
And then this happens. And so as they investigate, they're going to come out with further things, but to cut those communication lines would deeply, give Russia an advantage. That's one of the main communication ports of NATO, or communication fiber lines of NATO. And they have a redundant line also. That's how important it is. It's not just one line. It's a couple lines out there, right? There's a redundancy line. So, but there's something afoot. Putin launched an ICBM, right, with hypersonic warheads that nobody can stop. And one of their top engineers for us informed everybody that we cannot intercept that.
Really?
If you shot one of us, then we can't do anything with that. Yeah, we can't do anything with that. And so Putin did that as a warning shot across the bow. He's not playing games. Amen. He already said if we launch our missiles, then he will start to attack NATO, because what he sees is NATO becoming aggressive, right? Making steps towards their ultimate goal of surrounding him. He's not going to have that. And so there's also another security bulletin that he could potentially be doing that much closer target. So, we'll see how that unfolds. I also believe that this ceasefire is to throw Putin off.
Okay, let's talk about that.
I
Wait,
believe it's
you're
to
talking
throw
about the
Putin off.
ceasefire in the Middle East?
Yes, I do.
It's to throw
I
off
do
Putin.
not. I don't believe it's I don't believe it's genuine. I think this is a move. This is clearly a move to subvert some activities of Russia. Just about 4 days ago, Russia had moved some of his assets into the Middle East. Right? He was talking to Turkey a lot. He was talking to several different nations out there, and then all of a sudden they call for a ceasefire after all this time. Right? And it's barely holding. So something else is happening. They just can't outright inform the public of what they're doing. So they need some sort of cooperative.
Let me ask you
cover.
this, Mike: Is Biden administration working also with the incoming Trump administration through this process? I mean, they got to. Is the lines of communication open here? I mean, we don't have Biden doing one thing and Trump doing another, do we? Is there some kind of
No. So far, Biden is working with him, but it doesn't matter if Biden works with him. Here's the problem: we have the rogue individuals in this nation, right? They are not happy about the election decision with Trump. They are standing in the way at every single turn. They don't want Trump to have intelligence briefs, or the right ones. They certainly don't want him, doing specific things because they don't want the transfer. And these people they're just not happy, right? They're not happy at all. So you may as well think of Biden as being he's going through formalities, right? The true power source is not Biden at all.
It's Trump.
It's just not Biden at all. And then some of the interference, Biden has no idea. Have you ever noticed throughout his presidency, things happened in the Biden administration that Biden did not even know?
He didn't even know it was happening.
That happened all throughout his administration. So it points towards another controlling faction behind, that seat in his case. But that Trump is moving ahead as fast as he can. And will he make it there on time? Only the Lord knows. I'm hopeful.
Well,
what
about all of his men? Okay, Pete Hegseth, they threatened to blow up his place. He's got 7 little kids asleep, and they had to wake him up on Thanksgiving morning. Stefanik, she's been threatened. Zeldin, he's been threatened.
Okay, Diane, these guys are lying. They have to know they're lying because after what we watched yesterday with Abramovich, the witch Abramovich, getting close to that guy who's going to help Trump with the health thing, that's a red flag. And these guys would have to know that. We know it, so they would have to know it.
The chief of staff, she's been threatened. There's 10 or 12 of his key people. There's threats, there's assassination threats, there's bombing threats. Where's this coming? Is this from a centralized group that's doing this coordinated effort to try to bring fear and distraction? What's your thoughts?
To be honest, there's a group out there. They're essentially untouchable. But these individuals acting on this, here's what to watch for. Who has come out to denounce it?
Nobody.
Has anybody taken steps?
Nobody.
To publicly denounce it? So there you go. It's very difficult sometimes to name exactly what subsidiary organization is doing this out of the one organization, but when they don't denounce anything, they're complicit with it, period.
Yeah,
they're complicit with it. And so that shouldn't be. This whole thing is far too violent. There are too many civilians involved. Northcom is they're receiving special orders. There's special amendments as far as national security and civilian security and containment. There are protocols that are being put in place just so if civilians get out of control, right? Of course, everybody saw the DOD memo, right? That DOD memo emphasizes some of the powers of Northcom and some of the powers of Southern Command dealing with controlling civilians, which means the DOD can essentially take charge of local, we're talking about at the state level, local
Talk about this,
powers
because I talked about this.
Implement preventive security, right? And so long as it's a reasonable threat, right? All they have to do is establish it's a reasonable threat. They can take charge of local law enforcement.
Who is the deal? I mean, is we talking U.S. military taking it?
Department of Defense is the head of the head, right? That's the head of the head. So these are the folks who run. They run it all. So they're over everything. They pay the money for the veterans also. If the DoD gets operational command authority over these civilian, individuals, oh boy, that essentially means one person can be at the helm, and clear the order to fire for effect. Speaking of killing someone, they can use lethal force, and then give that command to use lethal force. Now here's the contingent: if it's a reasonable threat. That's even worse. Here's what that means.
What's that mean?
It could be a day like today. Nothing is happening. Some intel group or something like that, or somebody reports something happening, or a person is about to do something, or a group is about to do something. By that paperwork, that's a reasonable threat. Now they're going to determine if that threat is reasonable or not. And if it is, well, then they can give the order to terminate it, to kill it, to stop it, and use lethal force doing it. That's what that means. That means if anybody up there gets nervous too much, well, they qualify that as a reason, a qualified threat.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the person may not have a weapon. It just simply means if they suspect a threat could come from a specific, zone, area or person, they can go forward and.
That's real vague.
That's exactly what that establishes, because everybody knows that after the event takes place, then in court you validate, right? You validate that precept. Only after you've already
not
done the deed.
not before. This
Right.
is a minority report.
So essentially that's what they're going to do. If they suspect it, they're going after it now. But here's the danger part. Suppose they don't act on that, right? President Trump gets into power, and he didn't, clarify the language or anything. He's only going to be in power for 4 years.
4 years.
And here's what I'm watching for. When he's in office for 4 years, no matter what he does, he can easily enable some tyrant that comes behind him to exercise authorities he's putting in place, or that he, fails to undo before he gets out of office. I'm very wary of that, because there's some shady people in this world. There's certainly some shady people that will be found out in his circle that probably shouldn't be there. But these people are famous for taking a good idea, something that was meant to protect people, and turning it into a weapon. They can easily weaponize anything that passes.
You're right, Mike.
And so that's something to watch for.
No matter how pure the intent that Trump may have, and no matter how selective he is in trying to get the right people, there is going to be people in his camp, no matter what, down the line somewhere, who are going to be trying to help put in controlling mechanisms so that when the next guy gets in, he can utilize these loopholes to further a whole different agenda. The government's just too big. There's too many things. There's no way that you can protect that. I mean, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Satan always has this way to pervert any good thing. I think that people are going to find, well, they're probably already finding that out. As of late, spiritually, I can almost guarantee a lot of people their good intentions have been taken the wrong way. It's almost like the spirit of offense has doubled in the world, right? A person's intent to do something good is easily mistaken for something offensive or bad. No matter how much you explain to the person that you didn't mean it that way, they won't hear anything, right?
You're right.
Same thing with laws. People come in there, they will pervert any law that they see that they can utilize for their own personal advantage. they'll do so. And these people they seemingly multiplied in the earth.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about this then, Mike. This we're dealing with a ceasefire that looks very weak. Okay, December 4th. Apparently on December 14th. If it's the Babylon, you're saying let's call this the Babylon hour. Is there something going to happen? Is there a meeting going to take place? Is there some kind of deadline that's due that is bothering you about this December 14th?
Well, there's some before that, Pastor Paul. Okay. And there are some things around that season.
Okay.
If they don't, well, let's put it this way. After December 14th, if certain steps, especially in the Middle East, if they don't work, we're going to have some stuff spread across this world pretty quick. There are nuclear powers in the Middle East.
Okay.
Nuclear powers. These nuclear powers are shady at best, right? There's one nuclear power, I can't say the name, forgive me for that, but if they lose their country, they're at risk of losing their country from forces within the Middle East. If they lose their country, then those who take it will have that nuclear power.
That's not good.
And they're not going to hesitate to utilize it. Keep in mind, these Middle Eastern people, they want to kill themselves against the West or against Israel. They want to. That's their way. That's the way to heaven. They want to do this, and they will do it.
Okay,
right?
so you got
They
a little.
will do it.
You got to worry a little bit. We got some. I don't know if you're talking about Pakistan or one of these countries, but let's take Pakistan for a minute because, I mean, the capital of Pakistan's been on lockdown. They've been in martial law for like over a week. Pakistan's got some nukes, Mike. They got some nukes out there. I mean, and I'm not sure if that's who you're talking about, but I mean, that's the kind of country that you got to watch out. I mean, they got like 200 nukes, something like that. I mean, who takes over those? If somebody takes over India or over Pakistan, or
We have people waiting. India tried to set up, get military personnel in strategic places, but Iran's going to make sure they never are able to do that. So Iran is right there.
I know, Iran.
Out right there waiting. They
So
get a hold of those.
They'll
and
use
it's
them.
over.
They'll use them
It's
on.
over.
They'll use them on Israel if they think they can, or United States.
They're going to hit us both.
Yeah.
They'll hit us both, and they'll probably do so in combination because Putin understands something that, given the current speed of things, NATO is taking up positions around his country. They're doing it anyway.
Oh, I know.
That's what Macron has been doing, right? He's doing it anyway.
Yep.
Putin already said it, and he's not bluffing. This time, this is not rhetoric. That he's not giving them rhetoric. He's telling them what he's going to do, right? He's got people worried even tonight, Pastor Paul, because this guy, that last ICBM, people didn't see that coming.
No.
Well, what about 14 more?
No, nobody.
You can actually see when these things go live.
When you
can
say
actually see when they
14,
start up.
so in other words, you have to get these things geared up and ready to go to launch.
Yes, you do.
And we
Yes,
we know when that happens, right?
That's right.
So you're
Just
saying
like
he's
the
got
last
14. One. He's got 14 right now. He's gearing up.
Yes. Yeah.
That would devastate the world. If he went nuclear with them, I mean, if he went nuclear with them, he would devastate the world or the United States.
Well,
who's he aiming at?
They don't fire anything else, and he can easily reach us in about 3 minutes.
Can we shoot it out of the sky?
No, we cannot.
Would it detonate over us like an EMP?
It would launch the bus. The bus is that capsule full of eight warheads that travel at hypersonic speeds. They can hit 8 different targets.
8 cities.
One warhead can hit 8 different countries.
Or 8 cities in America.
Yeah, or 8 cities.
That'd be it.
So the only thing we could do, the only response to that is mutual destruction, right? That's why we've been, everybody's been working so hard on this, the laser grid, getting all that set up. That's the only defense you have for hypersonics, laser grids. Russia has demonstrated they can get through our air defenses. That ICBM air defense was against it. Nothing worked.
So we got to work on laser. We got to come up with
Nothing worked.
Star
We've been
Wars.
doing that in combination with Israel. That's been priority for some time now. So, that has
So
to
let
be
me
done.
ask you, if Russia's got 14 that they're moving and getting ready to activate, not that they're going to shoot them, but they're getting, they're online. Do we got 14 online too? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, well, we had things online.
Already.
We have things online.
Yeah.
But that's not, all we can do.
That's
is
not
blow
going to
up their
solve
shit.
any.
Right.
That's not going to
stop
solve anything. That's going to be.
Exactly.
It's just going to destroy the world.
It could be the reason I can't shake this feeling that somebody's going to have a Chernobyl moment. Somebody's going to have a meltdown moment.
Okay.
Somebody's going to have a meltdown.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and the hour of Babylon's coming. It's going to fall in one day, 1 hour. Okay. So let me ask you a question now. So we're in this moment where everybody's on edge. NATO, Russia, China, Taiwan's nervous, the whole Middle East, United States.
Yes.
Trump has made a statement about the 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. So he's upset about these borders. Mexico's jumped out. The lady, she's the president of Mexico. She's saying, "Whoa, calm down. We're going to help you. We're going to help you." Is this again part of the Trump doctrine? America first. Seal our borders. It's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, the wall's going up too. It's a giant deal. It's a giant deal.
What about Canada?
You know what? Well, they're going to play this carefully. They understand that they can't survive without us, right? And we know for a fact that there are compromises in certain parts of Canada.
It's coming across. They're coming across the border. I mean,
yeah.
So what about Mexico? Is Mexico going to send their army up there? What about the drug cartel? I mean, aren't they going to want to run this? Who are they going to fight? Both of us? Mexico and
America? They're crafty. And because they have to work, they're going to have to do a lot of work on the East Coast now. The USA will. After, once Texas and all those places are secure at the southern border, we've got to watch the coastlines. And it's unfortunate. These container ships, I'll say it again, they come in packed full of people. They come in packed full of people. There have been people who have walked off the job because they saw people packed in those containers and they said, no, they just walked off the job. That's happening more and more. But that's what we face. The thing is,
California, won't they come into California that way as well?
Yeah, but that's a bit harder. Okay. California's a bit harder because of it's a bit harder. But I'm glad somebody made the statement because they've already here's what's bad, Pascal. When somebody, if you were in a war-torn country and you knew that somebody had very lax rules at their border, right? If you wanted your family safe, and you just say you were honest. If you wanted your family safe, your kids safe, wouldn't you send them to that country? I know I would. I'd send them out of that danger zone into another place.
Yes,
so when a country does not secure its border, when it has no clear message, sometimes you have decent people who will send their children to the USA only to be used. To bad stuff happens, but to make a statement means they'll not do it. They're not going to do it. They're saying, well, you can't go now. And that, that's saving a life. Just to make that statement has probably saved hundreds of thousands of lives.
Yeah.
That quick. It really has.
Yeah.
So but to be heartbroken when they reach the border and they can't get in, now they're stuck in Mexico. And we already know what's in Mexico.
You don't want to be
a lot of
stuck
kids
in Mexico.
No, because people are they're dying big time over in those areas. So to not secure borders is just highly irresponsible. It's a bad message to carry, and it kills people. It really does.
So what's your biggest concern now, Mike, with everything happening?
Pascal, I can't shake the nuclear issue.
Yeah, you've had that 2 weeks.
I can't shake that. I can't shake it. I can't shake that. You know what it's almost like? Spiritually, something is going to take place. You can't do anything about it but pray, right?
Yeah.
And it gets worse. It's louder. I guess you could say it's louder. It's like a threat. Doesn't mean it's absolutely going to happen. No, I'd say every time I've had some sort of impression like this upon my spirit, a decision is being made, and based on that decision, there's an outcome. Both are unavoidable, but one is not as bad as the other. I think in this case, the outcome could be quite devastating. You really could be. I look at countries like the UK. They have a very weak policy as far as sometimes nations get so prideful. They will not increase their own personal defense of certain facilities in their own countries. France, they have the same problem. They're target number one. Things are happening in Germany already, in Europe already. And so these threats they're not decreasing, they're increasing. It's almost like everybody is trying to make a move before Trump gets into office.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know when he gets into office, he won't hesitate to use whatever he has at his disposal to kind of minimize all this stuff. So they're going to do everything they can do prior to him getting in there. There's also been an outbreak tonight, I'll say, Sunni and Shiite Muslims.
Where at?
Everywhere. It's starting to happen everywhere. Sunni and Shiite Muslims are starting to have these confrontations, where people die, confrontations, both in the Middle East, in Europe, some in France. It's been a couple of incidences here in the USA. So it's starting to happen everywhere. It's almost spontaneous, I guess, if you will. But something is happening in the Islamic world causing these confrontations.
Well, we know the Shiites and Sunnis don't like each other at all. But is somebody orchestrating this global confrontation?
That's very difficult to know. It just seems to be an outbreak.
Okay.
Nobody can definitively say there's been too much chatter here. This person put it out this time. There was no chatter. It just broke out. It could be because of the times we live in, but even that will start to increase.
Now go ahead.
I was going to say with this, when they called for this ceasefire, it's almost like it put pressure on everybody to make up their mind what direction they're going into.
I see what you're saying. Okay, now you've mentioned Chernobyl a couple of times. You're really upset about this. You're in your spirit. You're very concerned.
Yeah.
And
sir.
So as we go in the next, Trump is not in office yet. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of movement going on. Turkey's getting very active. Is that true? Are they moving assets? Is there something going on with Turkey?
Yeah, they have been. They have been, and they are a wild card. It's very difficult to know what Turkey is actually going to do, but they are a wild card. And they're talking to Putin too much. Some of these nations are talking to Putin too much. They're coordinating too much. Remember, Putin has equipment on the coast in Syria, and he has traded assets with Turkey on a couple of equipment. That was when our Air Force base was fully stocked there too. So he's a wild card.
Really,
he really is. And because everything is so, I guess, in the Muslim world, their time is close to, according to their end of days proclamations.
Does Planet X, is there anything happening here? I mean, because a lot of times there's stuff goes on the earth between humanity, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the heavens, the heavenlies. And we seem to be seeing a tremendous change in weather, crazy stuff. Is there anything going on with this gravitational pull, the coming meteorites you've talked about in the past? Is there anything new?
They're still coming, and they're still coming. And I hope that folks I really hope they're prepared to deal with some very unnatural phenomena. Very unnatural phenomena.
Okay.
Unnatural phenomena. I hope they're ready for that. In fact, this time that we live in is probably not the time for people to become experts on what does not exist or what would not happen, but to remain sober and to realize something that over the course, even in the past, this whole earth was blanketed in darkness for years.
That's true.
For years, not a couple of days, but years. And this has been since Christ. And we're about to go back into that cycle. This cycle is outside of any of the other cycles we've discussed. There's another cycle that they found out back in the 1200s. It was a meteor storm, Pastor Paul, and there were impacts on this planet. Do you not know that they believe that time is coming back around again? Now this is outside.
This is
of
outside
that
the binary system.
wide. That's right. This is outside of that. This is a cycle that they now believe has come back again. Now the clusters they're talking about, this is outside of the meteor storm that's in high, that they're expecting. So we could be on a cycle right now that's outside of every other cycle we ever thought of. The Earth has, it just messed us up for a time. There was darkness all over the Earth for a few years, and that's coming around again, right? They went back after studying some of the temperatures, taking multiple cores from many different places. They believe that this cycle is back again. They believe it's back again. And if it's back, it's just like a comet. A comet will leave, do what it does, and then come back again, right?
Right.
Same thing with this cycle. It's the same way we have the 4 seasons, but there are other long durational cycles. Some cycles we don't even know about until they come. So they believe this cycle is coming back again. And there will be, I'm sure, everybody out there is going to have a lot on that subject, because I'm sure this topic is going to come up with the tree rings and how many years we were in the darkness and how the Earth was full of soot. And I know we're going to have to entertain that, but my goodness, not this. This cycle is just one of those unexpected ones. And then the unnatural phenomena, as far as the weather is concerned, Pascal, we're at a tipping point. The atmosphere, the Earth, temperature, storms, wind variations, we're at a tipping point. We have some of the numbers have just stumbled up to a point where it's like striking a match. If we go over the tipping point, the match is going to light, right? Matches overnight, by the way, where you don't strike them, but as soon as you strike them, they catch on fire. Well, we're the same thing. So just imagine this. We had some pretty hot temperatures this year, right?
Yeah.
Imagine temperatures at least, I say about 15 to 20 degrees hotter than what they normally are. Imagine crustal displacement escalating on the Earth.
No, we don't want that. No.
And imagine, now I heard this twice. Can you imagine all the ice gone by the end of 2025?
No, that would just, I don't even.
I heard that twice. I mean,
this is chatter being talked about. The scientists are
I heard that
involved
twice. These are, now the chat, this wasn't chatter. This was, these are, let's say, solution findings. I've heard that twice. Can you imagine no ice by the end of 2025?
No. Well, first of all, what would it do? I mean, besides the water rising, wouldn't there be like major shifts in on tectonic plates and stuff?
If the ice melts, right? For example, if the ice continues to melt like it did last year, if it melts that way in 2025, we're going to have obstructed patterns in the currents of the ocean, right? In the wrong places. When the ice melts, that water sinks right to the bottom. It helps to regulate temperatures, right? So the greater the ice melt, the hotter the spots we're going to have all over the planet.
Hotter.
It also releases oxygen.
Okay.
Right. That water in the ocean goes straight to the bottom. Straight to the bottom. And it actually helps to cool and slow down melt points in the crust of the surface of the Earth where you have underwater volcanoes. It regulates the eruptive state of those things. If all the ice is gone, we're not going to have any more cold water going to the bottom to regulate these things. We won't have enough pressure. We won't have enough pressure to hold down certain points. We're going to have a land eruption from under the ocean. Should that happen, things are going to begin to boil pretty quickly, right? Things will get hot. So imagine the Gulf temperatures all throughout the Atlantic and the Pacific. We already have problems with temperatures in the Gulf, right?
Yeah.
They're worried about an ignition in the Gulf, right? They're worried about that. So we'll probably have a couple of oil spills coming up, right? And the end of this year happens to be the time on the oil rigs when salt water and everything else takes its toll on some of these rigs. So they won't be able to maintain specific things, right? Imagine some of those drill pipes burst or something like that, we're going to have an accident. Oil accidents, those accidents are cyclical. It comes from old equipment. Likewise, on the land, the same thing. If that ice melts, we're going to have saltwater intrusion. That's going to break our infrastructure from the inside out. Right? It's I'd say Texas is going to have to deal with some underground fires. So will Ohio and Pennsylvania, even more than they have now. They already told people in New Jersey the ground was on fire underneath. Nobody seems to be concerned about the fires that took place. Well, they caught coal on fire in New Jersey. They caught coal on fire in parts of Pennsylvania. That fire's still smoldering underneath. And just like Pennsylvania some years ago, some people are going to have to move out of the homes. You can't put those out once they're lit like that. You can't do it.
Because it just because underneath
keeps burning.
Keeps burning.
Keeps burning. Yeah.
So it's crazy
and right next to that, Fastball, we have those two big gas pockets are down there. Those gas reservoirs.
Yeah.
They're right next to the coal. If that coal burns, it's going to hit the gas reservoir, and then what? They can't put that.
There ain't a way. It just keeps burning and burning and burning. So
they got to find a solution to that before what was it, mid-year next year or something like that, because it will certainly burn right into it.
So, and you said that we were going to have more weather events. I mean, you said we were going to have big water events, but we'd also have droughts. I've been noticing.
And we've had them water events all over the planet, all the flash floods.
That we've had unbelievable flash flooding this year.
Yep.
I mean, the floods this year around the world have been off the chain.
100%.
Just yesterday or the day before, it snowed in South Korea, in Seoul, the biggest snowstorm in 50 years. Then we'll turn around, we'll have wildfires burning in New Jersey. And then we turn around, we have hail, so unbelievable hail in Saudi Arabia, and then in the Sahara Desert, there's rivers flowing basically of water. I mean, this is some really weird stuff, Mike. It's stuff that's
it's increasing.
Yeah, I mean, it's way out of balance. It's the earth like reeling and rocking, and you've been talking about, and BP Earthwatch has been talking about the earth tilting. Okay, this tilt.
Yeah.
Is there any news on that that's going on?
Yeah, it's still going. It's still going to go. It's still going to do its thing. Eventually, we're going to lose our. We're getting used to all this abnormal weather, right? It's going to continue to get abnormal. We're going to have different days. The sun's going to be in different positions, right? People will see clearly. A whole other thing up there here shortly. Not that little thing either. Imagine, I'll say it again because people will see it. They will see, now this is going to sound nuts, but they will see an object about half the size of the sun. They're going to see it possibly every month.
Is there a certain time of the month that it becomes visible? Like during a full moons or what's going on?
No. They'll see it in the daytime.
Yeah, is it like as the sun is setting or is the sun rising? Is that or just middle of the day?
No, they'll start seeing it just, it'll be out 1 week and then they won't see it again for another month and it'll be out another week. They won't see it for 1 month because we have large scale celestial changes. I mean, large scale. I'm sure that if Elon and all those guys make it, Elon will inform. If people better get ready, because I'll tell you something. I already know they're going to inform people about things that are shocking. Okay?
So we're going to
inform people about things shocking.
In the heavens.
People want the truth. They want the truth.
Yeah.
They're going to get the truth. But the truth is not going to be as easy as they think. Right? And a lot of naysayers, you know how naysayers come up, it's not real, and this, that, and the other.
Right.
I think they're frightened. They're going to be twice as frightened when these guys are speaking. And then when they begin to see it every single day, it's just going to mess the world up.
What's up with Zuckerberg? I mean, now he showed up in Maryland. What's going on? Everybody's coming. Is there fear? Are they afraid of the new changes? They want to make sure they're on the right team. I mean,
well, they don't drink the Kool-Aid that people do, right? They're on a whole different level. Look, Elon Musk is, believe it or not, Elon Musk has. Is he misunderstood? Yeah, but this guy has a lot of care in his heart. He does. He's I know he seems weird in certain ways, but Elon Musk cares about the progress of people. He does. He cares about people progressing.
The guy who's bringing in the mark of the beast, Elon Musk.
And so Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to be left behind. Plus, Mark Zuckerberg has some breakthroughs.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, somebody said I was wearing a nice Rolex. I just want to see that it's not a Rolex. But if you want to send one, we'd be glad to wear it. Sorry, Mike. All right, sorry. Mike. So we go back to Elon Musk. Okay.
He's a very caring guy, but he also has a lot of forward momentum, right? Plus, he's going to be in charge of government waste and development in other areas.
Oh, is that going to get under somebody's? That's going to get under somebody's skin, isn't it? You start digging into the government waste. What is that going to expose? Some serious
they're going to expose quite a bit.
Okay.
They're going to expose quite a bit.
Go back to the
basically, think about all the things that people, there's some things that people don't know. I think it's good. Because they will level the playing field a bit. But here's the deal. I have to give a caution on this.
Okay.
They're going to be fighting a body that is powerful. Right? It's almost like, it'd almost be like me going to fight the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay, well, we talked about it, Mike. You talk about.
But that's what I'm saying, because they're going up against people who run everything. Think about this. I'll tell you this. Most of these things, have you ever noticed how it'll look like something in the world should take place, but then it doesn't? And when you think nothing could possibly happen to something else, it does. Well, you have people, right, who manage things in this world. People that manage things in this world. And these people that manage things in this world, they get exactly what they want. We're not talking about the Bilderbergs. That's like the Girl Scouts, I guess you could say.
Wow. Really? Okay.
We're talking about the folks who dictate. Let's just say they dictate where money goes and what it does. And anybody who has that money, right, that they often end up exactly where and how these guys say they're going to end up. These guys are deeply rooted. They're going to have to fight some real dark things. I mean, darkness that the average person doesn't know about. They're going to go right up against it, which is why saints, hopefully they're praying, because we all know that anybody who goes up against darkness, if they're not covered by the blood of the Lamb, they have no cover. They have no defenses. And what they're going up against is just no joke. No joke.
So, I always hear about the 13, somebody just mentioned it's perfect. The 13 families, we always hear about these, the puppet masters and the people.
Yeah.
There is people there. I mean, there really is a group of people.
Oh, yeah.
They're very powerful.
You betcha. And they get whatever direction these guys want to take, they simply take that direction. Which is why the world, no matter what anybody does, the world gets worse and worse and more. It is so much iniquity around, and it's highly immoral. Everything is highly immoral.
I know.
And it's almost like people have become accustomed to it. Because I'm going to say this, who can introduce some of the immoral things that we've had to where nobody can see it, but it's all around us? Everybody's afraid to say anything against it. You don't see protests against that. You don't see not one protest against any of this iniquitous stuff.
No,
you don't see it.
We only get
not?
We get anti-Semitic protests.
That's right. That's it. But you never have a protest against immorality. How can that be? How can that be possible with all these folks who believe in Christ? How can there be no protest?
I don't know. That's a great point.
Because these guys are in cahoots with what's called the king of the world, I guess you'd call it. King of the world, and everybody's going to get their introduction into something else. I'm sure that Trump is going to have to fight a fight. Maybe he didn't believe it was going to be like that, but it's going to be a real fight.
Is the Sand King still out there? You remember you mentioned that?
Yes, he is. The Sand King is in operation. Okay. He's doing his thing, Pastor. We're at a very late hour, believe it or not, right? Yeah. You know that one scripture in the Bible which states, I know a lot of people read it one way, but it states that Jesus was talking about Noah's flood. And he specifically said, they were eating, drinking, marrying, given into marriage until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also, right? It's going to be that way at the coming of the Son of Man. And they knew not till the flood came and took them all away. He didn't mention anything else. He said they knew not until the flood came and took them all away.
Right.
Which automatically lets me know that the world is going to normalize every condition until Christ comes. The desecration of Jerusalem, they're going to normalize things.
Oh, man.
Right? They'll try that. What happened with things that have happened here in this country? They normalized it. I remember when they had that earthquake in Turkey and 70,000 died. I said, folks, don't forget this, because this is a devastating thing. But I said, unfortunately, a couple of weeks from now, nobody is going to talk about it, and it's almost like something is just wiping it out of people's minds. It's not important anymore, right?
No.
How can these things, how can we normalize ourselves? And it does remind me of the days of Noah, because I can often imagine people getting used to drops of rain. It's just raindrops, no big deal. It keeps coming and gets heavier. We'll just go to higher ground. And they keep doing their thing until the waters were up to their noses and they couldn't breathe. Then they said, well, this is a bad situation. That's the same way the world works. Until it takes them, they won't know anything. They're going to normalize everything.
Normalize.
So
yeah.
They will. The weather right now has increased an untold percentage, Pastor Paul.
Yeah, but it's normalized.
By the trend line we're on, it's going to be a lot of people sick by fall of 2025. Just sick. The radiation scales, the radiation we've been exposed to by the sun, because the sun's chemistry is changing. Yeah. It's going to get us.
Pets are dying right now. My pets seem to be dying at a larger rate. Is it because the radiation's killing them first before it kills us? I mean, is there something going on here? I mean, cancer among pets.
Pets are sensitive to, well, I'll tell you something. Chernobyl, again, right?
Yeah.
Leaked radiation all around the world, right?
Yeah. Fukushima.
Radiation detectors still go off at I believe it's 2 rings around this earth, and 2 of those rings pass right through America. So certain areas have radiation doses, which are, by the way, cumulative. The sun's chemistry is changing.
Oh, big time.
So the radiation from the sun is penetrating the atmosphere, coming to the surface of the earth, causing the pricklies on people's skin. No matter how hot it used to get, nobody can ever remember going out in the sun and it feels like you're being poked by 1,000,000 needles, right?
No.
But you can feel it now, and that's going to continue to change. The UV scales, it seems like somebody went back and calibrated all of the detectors to suit some of the new levels that we have. And it's just incredible. So people out there in the sunlight, they're exposing themselves to some bad conditions, right? Dogs are getting sick because they're more sensitive to it. They're also sensitive to magnetite. They're also sensitive to magnetic waves. And as the earth continues to change, they're going to feel it. They go nuts right before earthquakes do, right? So we have a whole other round of eruptions that are about to take place, and some pretty devastating earthquakes due to tectonic shifting that has caused these upwells in certain places in the USA, Asia, Russia, all around the world, right? Plus, large land masses are just changing, period. Some are sinking. They won't be here anymore. New land masses will be seen in the Atlantic.
You know, when we think about this, Hal Lindsey passed away. We've been talking about that some, and it's sad. 95 years old, though. He was he wrote The Late Great Planet Earth, which really affected people, made people start looking at least at the reality that the Bible and prophecy was in process. And so he was a great man of God, and he was a tremendous writer. And so may he rest in peace, and hope one day to meet him in heaven. Is just a wonderful man and family. Mike, while we're dealing with all these things, and I don't want to take you too much more of your time, but the alien thing, you talk. First of all, the interview with you on this webinar was so unbelievable. I actually went back and listened to it a second time after we taped it. It was just so good. Is this? Are we at a different time? I mean, what I'm trying to say is, it's like we've never been here before. It feels like some of the things we talked about 10 years ago is now happening right now, accelerated. Is there a reason? I mean, is there a spiritual? Okay, the spiritual, we talk about spiritual warfare, but it's happening not only in the heavens, but on the earth too. It's like a combination. And you shared some incredible information. Should people, they should listen to this, and then they should learn from what you're talking about and the others. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. So we live in different times, Pastor Paul. We live in a time of where everything is starting to manifest. You know, people actually are facing consequences from I hate to say it, but consequences of prophecy themselves.
Yeah,
they're going to see prophecy unfold. It's going to take effect on their lives, whether they believe in it or not. It will take effect in their lives.
Yeah.
And humanity, by the way, we are in the time where the hidden element won't be hidden anymore. That's going to be a very tough time. It's going to be a tough time. Now, kids are adapted to deal with it. Kids are.
Yeah.
But like you said, Hal Lindsey passed away, right, Pastor? Do you not? There's a whole generation that's gone.
Yes, I know. We lost it.
And before they left, right, before they went, I remember talking to Angela about this a long time ago. I said, you know what? When this generation is gone, we're going through it. But God will get them. They'll be gone first. They're not to go into this other place we're going into.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Lord took a very specific generation because they were not sent here to go through what we're about to go through.
Yeah.
And we're past the door. You know, we're in this time. So to be some pretty, and we're at the tail end of a generation that was born with prophecy in us. I'm highly confident that most of your audience could connect with the book of Revelation when they first heard the word revelation. They knew something. They knew the earth was degrading. They knew conditions were degrading.
Yes.
But they couldn't accept that we were going to have a great big party. They knew something was wrong. And I would say that most of your audience probably they're born with this identification of prophecy in them. So we're in that generation that really, you know, we identify with prophecy. In fact, without prophecy, what job, what task would we have? That's what gets us on fire, lights us up. That's what charges us.
Right.
To identify that we're in a time of prophecy.
Yes.
We're not the folks that deny it, of course, but there's a whole generation. They knew about the prophecies, Pastor Paul, but you could almost see that they couldn't live in the time where they would take place.
No, you're right.
They were not designated for that.
Their job was to identify it was coming.
Yeah.
And then the Lord said, okay, so Ken Clement, you know, there goes Chuck Missler, there goes Jack Anempey, there goes Dr. Baxter, there goes Hal Lindsey, there goes Billy Graham. I mean, there's this generation that's gone here in the last 10 years, and because they didn't have to go through, but we've been selected. It's like we've been selected to go through this process. We're here.
I know in my life I used to.
I do think God saved the best for last, and we're the best. I do think that.
Hear people say, "Oh, it's going to get better." I knew it was not. I used to hear them. There were times when I wanted to believe it, but there was something in me that said, "No, it's not. You better prepare." Right? And it's almost like all of us are on this true, honest pursuit of Christ.
Amen.
Not the hearsay Christ, but the real Christ.
I was talking to my dad today. You know, he's 88. He's going on 89. He's tired. So he takes a lot of naps. You know, so I was sitting in the room with him, and he's taking one of his naps. He wakes up after a nap, after about a 20-minute nap. He goes, "It's going to get worse and worse." I said, "What?" He just wakes up from a nap and says, "Oh," he said, it's going to get waxed worse and worse, Paul. You think it's going to get better?" He said, "I'm telling you, you haven't seen nothing yet. You haven't seen iniquity yet until you see iniquity. It's coming. It's going to get worse."
Yeah.
It sure is.
And then he goes back to sleep. No,
There'll come a time very quickly. I give it less than 2 years where women will walk down the street topless.
What? It'd be acceptable? Will this society say it's okay?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. In the Christian community, right? We're in a Christian community, so we stay away from most things of the world.
Right.
Some of us have to see what the world is doing on a daily basis
Yeah.
and see which way it's moving. And I'm telling you, Pastor Paul, iniquity is just a word. For it to be in action is an abomination. But we're going to see it. Christians more and more, well, a lot of those who call themselves Christians, they can't hear cursing in the media or anything. They don't recognize curse words anymore. They're so used to it.
They become desensitized.
They don't respond to it. That's
Or
right. They don't respond to it.
Yeah.
Nudity is becoming the same way. And
Yeah.
these new kids, these new kids that are out there, all these new kids, boy, they are highly prone to follow things that really capture their attention. You know, it's almost like a whole generation has been set up to say yes to somebody who would come forward, who would fool them by way of, some exercising great authority and power, which is what, these kids, some of these kids today, I'm talking about the young kids, I'm talking about these kids are they're about 11 and under right now. They are different children. They're very different children. The people that are right now,
same way. They don't think.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. They can't even identify with certain things. We know we had natural knowledge, right? Nobody had to tell me that Jesus was Jesus. Nobody had to tell me that.
No.
I had a natural knowledge. These kids, they don't know what a microwave is. They don't look at that microwave. You used to go put something in there. Put it in water. How do you do that? They can't identify with certain things. And it almost says, I've seen that type behavior before, but in a survival generation.
Wow.
It's just like in human beings. There's been a migration gene that came about every time humanity had to migrate from one place to another. It's called a migration gene. And it doesn't come up every generation. It only comes up when humanity has to do something, right? These kids have other genes that we don't have, that have popped up, they're activated all of a sudden. We're not talking about this higher consciousness nonsense, but we're talking about another type gene that's almost set for survival. They have it in them, fully activated. So it's almost like they're medical marvels also. But things are certainly happening. They're changing, and we just so happen to be in that generation. We'll see it. I believe we are in that transition generation.
It's a different world.
But it is. I know a lot of people have trepidation about a force coming in, right?
Yes.
Almost like a force that's going to do something against the will of the people. That's this undying thing that won't go away. Well, I'd say this. Hopefully people are rooted for real in Christ, because there will come a time when even that will be challenged. There was always coming a time when we would have to. The Lord said, if you deny me before men, I'll deny you before the angels.
Amen.
I believe that a lot of us are going to have to stand up and actually declare them.
Yes.
Some people have not done that, right? Some people have not done that.
You can't
Conversations, they shy away.
You can't be a secret disciple. I mean, there's a time you got to choose which side you're on, and you got to make a stand. And
this is one of those moments.
Yeah, it's here. It's here.
One of those moments.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much tonight. I mean, this is some great info. You dropped a lot of powerful information, and we are watching. We know this December 14th time is coming, and we don't know what that means, but this Babylon hour, I'm totally. I mean, when you said that, I mean, my spirit just jumped. It was like two or 3 weeks ago when you said, "Well, it's the Babylon hour is coming," and I can't get away from that now. That is in the Bible. We just read it tonight. You read it. I read it tonight. It is in the Word of God. There's an hour. You know what Scripture says? And Jesus said, "Pray that you be worthy to escape the hour of temptation that's coming upon the earth." There's a moment, isn't it? There's a moment people got to decide which side you're on, and it may cost you your life, or it may cost you something, but you got to decide during that hour. There's an hour coming, Mike. It's coming.
Yeah.
We better be ready.
Yeah, it sure is.
We love you, brother. We appreciate you coming on. I know it's Thanksgiving. Thank you once again for, you're always available. You're on the front line, Mike, and we really appreciate it tonight. I really do.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Paul, God bless you. It's always an honor. Thank you for all.
Good night, guys.
You're like the core, right? This central thing here going on all across the world. So that's an awesome thing.
Well,
That's an awesome
we're
thing.
just a humble servant. We're just doing the best we can. Hope people will come and get in the kingdom while they can. Thank you, brother.
God bless you, Pastor
God
Paul.
bless you. Amen.
All right.
Mike from the world, folks.